to work with the UN to create humanitarian corridors that allow safe passage for civilians out of Ukraine. Harvard University has created a $100 million fund to help address its history of slavery and allow it to make reparations. And the US Supreme Court is looking at whether the Biden administration can end a Trump-era immigration policy known as Remain in Mexico. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Caroline Malone reporting.
Now, a lot of little girls do ballet even though their fathers couldn't care less and don't see what the big deal is. But one talented little prodigy actually choreographed a whole ballet that her father could enjoy and even look forward to. Let's meet Erin Kemper and her father, Jack.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Erin, how did you do that?
I thought about all the things that my dad likes to watch and put it into a ballet.
Well, we have a special treat for you today because Erin is now going to perform her new ballet. When I pay the bills, I get to make the rules.
We can't afford that. World War II. I miss your mother too, but we're gonna have to do the best without her. Go Redskins!
Bravo! Well done. Boy, I wish you were mine. You know, my two girls are grown up, but you still couldn't pay me to watch one of their a cappella shows. What inspired you to create this amazing ballet?
I'm really inspired by the theme of my dad paying any attention to me at all.
Now, at the end, I hear she just put the game up on the big screen.
I don't know where she gets it.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Welcome to the program here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio with you tonight, we've got Ian,
Aria,
And Coney.
Lots of news just broke moments before the show started. Ari and I have not really had much time to process the information. But
I have no time to process the information. I mean, realistically, I found out about this like right before I left my house in order to come here to do the show.
yeah. And
So, super fun.
we're not technically allowed to talk about the case in question against us, which is we're not allowed to talk about it with each other. And there's only so much we can say on the radio because, we can't talk about like the discovery, which is secretive. So, but now I don't know if there's going to be more discovery coming or what, because there's now way more charges. They have done what's called a superseding indictment.
Which we knew was coming.
We knew it was probably coming. There was a chance they were bluffing us, but nope, they weren't.
True. And it was starting to like, okay, yeah, they were bluffing, and we called their bluff, and that was the right call.
Now, they've added in a bunch more charges. So the Crypto 6 situation, which, by the way, 4 out of the 6 have dropped out. 3 of the 6 have taken felony plea deals with the federal government. They'll be sentenced in late July on, I believe all 3 of them pled to wire fraud, 1 count each of wire fraud.
I think so.
Quote unquote wire fraud. I say that because there's no actual victim. There's no actual loss. Although the government gang is now claiming the victims are the banks, and they have a long list of, a dozen or so banks and credit unions that they say were the victims of this dastardly fraud scheme that they are accusing us of. They've added now, because Aria and I have not taken a plea deal. We're the 2 who have not. 1, Colleen did not take a plea. She made some sort of a deal to have the charges dropped, so good for her for that. So it's now down to the crypto duo, and that is what we have here going forward with the crypto, what was the original Crypto 6 case. They've now brought in a bunch new wire fraud so-called charges. They brought in some
substantially more money laundering charges.
Extra money laundering charges. Yep. Now you grabbed a few of those, I think.
Yeah, 3 of those, I believe.
They hit you with some wire fraud, and there might be something else in there that I'm forgetting. But it's basically more of the same. They got a little more creative with some of the extra charges. Oh, I've been hit with basically failure to file taxes for the last 6 years. So there's some charges in there for that as well. And that's likely only 6 years because there is a 6-year statute of limitations. Otherwise, I'm sure they would have charged me for many more years beyond that. So neither of us have had a chance to consult with our attorneys on this matter, and we are both expected to be arraigned on these new charges coming up in early May. So May 11th will be our arraignment dates. And we are going to be arraigned by the very same judge who decided that I should not be granted bail the first time around. Or not judge, magistrate is the term for this person. So not the judge in the case. That judge will not be seeing our arraignments. The magistrates take care of the arraignments. So I don't know if this woman is going to demand that I report immediately to jail again, and then we have to go through that whole process again, or how that's going to go.
It seems unlikely, right?
I don't know. I mean, they didn't raid our houses today, so that's I guess a positive.
I know. I've been pleasantly surprised by that because I did acquire a dog after the raid last year. I have a golden retriever.
Wow. Yeah, that increases the risk.
Yeah, and she's super friendly, but she's a puppy. And she's super friendly, right? There would be no, hey, no, those are FBI agents, leave them alone. No, she
just wants to come greet them.
Yeah. And that generally doesn't end well for dogs.
Yeah. And have you ever roughhoused anybody in her presence? Has she reacted to? Because some dogs are just as friendly as ever, but you start tussling around and jumping around and making a lot of movements, and sometimes those dogs will freak out and think that you're being attacked and come to your defense.
That doesn't seem like her.
Yeah, she's a golden retriever.
Yeah, I mean she's good. She's happy with everyone. So
wow.
So that's the update in the Crypto 6 case. We have not seen, any other details except for the indictment that they just handed down. But the good news, if you want to find the shining spot here, if there is one in this cloud,
always the optimist.
That is that supposedly this is the end of the road for them filing charges in regards to anything that has happened in the past. Regards to this situation. That doesn't mean they can't cook up some other completely separate case in regards to something else. Who knows? But for now, this is supposedly the end of... They have laid all of their cards on the table, and once we get all of the discovery in, which I don't know what the deadline is for them to do that now with this new indictment, then we can finally move forward with defending this case.
I don't know. There's so many new charges. I can't imagine this actually goes to trial this November. I mean, they almost doubled the amount of charges. And I mean, they took me from 2 to 9.
Yeah, that's right. That's your punishment for not taking the plea deal.
That's how they do.
They want us to stick to the original timeline of going to trial, 6 months from now. I just don't see it happening.
We will see.
Not with the stakes raised so significantly.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be up to the attorneys. If they feel like they need more time, then they're certainly going to ask for it, and they'll likely be granted that. So that's where it sits. If you want to learn more, you can go to thecrypto6.com. You can watch video footage of the raid, basically. Not the moment of, but sort of the immediate moments after. Thanks to Chris and Bob, who were there and like Johnny on the spot. They were right out there at 6 in the morning. So it's pretty amazing. Most of the time, you don't get to see footage like this.
That's why they do it at 6 in the morning when everyone's asleep.
Exactly. So thecrypto6.com, you can learn more about that. Again, no victims in these supposed crimes, but they want to put us away in prison. I mean, just one of the wire fraud charges is up to 30 years in prison. And there's, a dozen plus of those now that I'm facing, I think. I think I've got 12. I think Aria's got 4 or something like that. So serious stuff, and they really do what they can to protect their banker buddies. So, getting into bizarre news that I mentioned last night, and Conan, you've got one too about.
We've got a lot of bizarre stuff this evening.
A strange pizza assignment for
8th graders,
children at government school. We'll get into that coming up here in a bit. But to start out, I mentioned this one last night, and we didn't get to it. It's from dnyuz.com. And do you guys remember the story about I don't know if he was like a Russian bodybuilder who married his sex doll?
Yeah, and then he divorced her and married an ashtray.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if he married the ashtray, but he fell in love with it.
That's right. Yep.
And
this guy, he's probably trolling people, but he's so good at it. Like, he actually had a wedding and his friends were there, and there's photographs of this thing. It's not just like he's just talking online.
So the ashtray guy this is another guy.
A different guy. This is from over the last few years, this bodybuilder.
Because I was about to say, this isn't the first time a human being has married something inanimate.
Well, I don't understand how you can marry a thing that's inanimate. I think generally in order to have a marriage, you have to have mutual consent between the parties.
That's a good point.
That's what they call these things.
But what if it's inanimate? It doesn't have a voice, and so it's your possession, so you make decisions on its behalf, right?
Like if it was a slave or something like that.
Exactly. So
that
maybe
gets into a whole lot of gray area.
So
man.
maybe marriage is the wrong word. Maybe we need to come up with something different. If more and more people are jumping on this wagon, which it appears is taking place, especially when you're talking about sex dolls, which is, they're coming out in force.
I'm going to say you can't marry property. Now, I'm going to say that's where one has to draw the line.
Yeah,
marriage is a matter of consent, and property cannot consent.
I think by definition, marriage has to have a second consenting party.
I tend to
At
agree.
least.
Yeah.
Maybe you can have a third and a fourth and a fifth. I mean, depending on what you're into. But this one, so this is right in the line with the case with the bodybuilder, except this one might even be more serious, more of likely to be a real situation instead of a big troll. This is from Tokyo. In almost every way, Akihiko Kondo is an ordinary Japanese man. He's pleasant and easy to talk to. He has friends and a steady job and wears a suit and tie to work. There's just one exception.
Salary man.
Mr. Kondo is married to a fictional character. His beloved Hatsune Miku is a turquoise-haired, computer-synthesized pop singer who has toured with Lady Gaga and starred in video games. After a decade-long relationship, one that Kondo says pulled him out of a deep depression, he held a small, unofficial wedding ceremony in Tokyo in 2018.
He cured his depression by going crazy?
Do these dolls last that long? Or has she been getting updated?
There's more coming up here in moments. We'll tell you about her. It's on the way.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Fact. The new NSA data center in Utah requires 1.7 million gallons of water every single day to operate. Billions of Fourth Amendment violations need massive computers and the water to cool them. That water is being supplied by the state of Utah. Fact. There's absolutely nothing in the Constitution which requires your state to help the feds violate your rights. Our message to Utah: turn it off. No water equals no NSA data center. Visit offnow.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us here talking about a bizarre situation that may be becoming more popular.
Commonplace, for sure.
I'm not going to say it's commonplace.
It will be.
But it might be.
I think especially in, countries where, there are less females and or they have their, the culture has been set up in such a way over the years that men would rather mess around with inanimate objects.
I mean, we are talking about a Japanese dude here, and I don't want to, rail too hard against the Japanese, but we talked about them a few weeks ago or last week in some other context, and we pointed out some of these bizarre game shows. I mean, the Japanese people as a culture, they do weird stuff.
Oh, yeah.
True.
So this isn't...
Just think tentacles. And I'll stop,
okay.
And I'll stop right there.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll leave that one.
But, I mean, they do weird stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm sure they would look at us and say that we do some weird stuff.
I'm sure they would.
And certainly some of the reasons for this may be because of the different repressions that they're subjected to in their culture, the different pressures and such that perhaps we are not, but we're subject to other ones. And you referenced it, Conan, this sort of insular mentality that a lot of people in Japan have, where
it's a working class. It's a very the very strong family units. Grow up and work for the rest of your life and to take care of your family, and
but they're not having families.
That's the most important thing. Exactly.
There might have been strong family ties in past generations, but now there's not even a drive to make a family.
And now you have the rise of the hermit kids who live with their parents and just lay around in bed and play video games all day.
Well, that's happening in the United States.
It's really bad in Japan.
Is that right?
Yeah. By the way, I did look up the definition of marriage. Number one is the state of being united as spouses in a consensual and contractual relationship recognized by law. Also, the institution where individuals are joined by marriage. So it's looking more and more like it's consensual, and it has to be people. But number three, it says an intimate or close union.
Okay.
So sure, I can have this guy might have really had a really strong relationship with his ashtray, possibly.
But union suggests it's like a two-way street,
yeah.
though. I
don't think you can have a relationship if there is no other volition on the other side of the relation.
Yeah, but union is just a bonding. It's just, and again, I'll go back. If it's your property, you make decisions on its behalf. It's your decision. It's your choice.
I don't think the ashtray guy, it wasn't his ashtray.
Oh, really?
Wasn't it like a club?
Now it's getting juicy.
Well, the guy who owned the ashtray was like cool with it.
Wait. Was he cheating with the? Oh, wait. That's the other question. Was he cheating on the sex doll?
You can't
with
cheat
the ashtray.
on a sex doll with an ashtray. Okay, let's get that out of the way first. Okay, that's not possible.
Did he have permission from the person who owned the ashtray?
See, and that's why.
Or was it a whole cuckold kind of a situation?
He did have I don't want to say blessing, but he had the permission of the guy who owned the ashtray.
Okay,
yes.
so I think it's a legal union. And of course we know he's trolling us. So this is the best part.
We think he's trolling. I mean, it seems like that has to be a troll. It could simply be that he is insane. Now, in the case of Mr. Kondo, this is a Japanese man in Tokyo, Ahiko Kondo. has married a anime character named Hatsune Miku. She's turquoise-haired, computer-synthesized pop singer who's toured with Lady Gaga and starred in video games. He says that his decade-long, quote, relationship pulled him out of a deep depression.
So this is one of those made-up influencers on Instagram or whatever, one of these, controversy-free pop stars or whatever that will stay young forever. Perhaps. And never have any controversies.
And this is not even a physical sex doll.
No, there's a physical. We don't have any idea whether or not this is a sex doll, but it is a plush doll. So in a unofficial wedding ceremony in Tokyo in 2018, she was there in the form of a plush doll wearing white, and he was in a matching tuxedo. Mr. Miku. Mr. Kondo has found love, inspiration, and solace, he says. He and his assortment of Miku dolls, so he has more than one, eat, sleep, and watch movies together. Sometimes they sneak off on romantic getaways, posting photos on Instagram, which is what the other guy did, by the way.
They don't do any of that stuff together. He's doing it by himself.
Correct.
He just has a plush doll with him while he does it.
It's really a lot like someone who has an imaginary friend, except there's a doll that's actually in the imaginary friend's place. It's somebody who has enough money to make an imaginary friend have some sort of corporeal existence.
Well, how much is a plush doll? It can't be that expensive, right?
Mr. Kondo, who's 38 years old, knows people think it is strange, even harmful. He knows that some, possibly those reading this story, hope he'll grow out of it. And yes, he knows that Miku isn't real, but his feelings for her are.
Yeah, see, that's where the problem is, right? You fell in love with something that is not real. That's an issue.
He says, when we're together, she makes me smile. In that sense, she's real.
No, she's still not real.
Can you not love your hobbies, Arya? I love gardening. My plants don't talk back to me. Of course, they're not inanimate either.
You
they're alive.
Enjoy spending time gardening, right? But that doesn't mean... I don't know how to differentiate between gardening and marrying a plush doll.
It's a hobby. This is his hobby. It's become his life.
I
think I'm going to say his life revolves around this inanimate object.
You take a tablet out to your garden and sit out there watching Netflix with your tomatoes, and then we can make the comparison.
So no Netflix and chill with my tomatoes.
No, do you talk to the plants?
You have to treat them as though they're real, I think, in order to cross this line.
Well, the plants are real.
Yeah, they're real.
And haven't there been studies about people who talk to plants and sing to them that they grow
or play Beethoven
better?
for them?
Yeah.
I don't even know if any of that's real.
I mean, I've heard about it. I don't know how real it is.
I think that's one of those myths that are floating out there that who knows.
But you're not treating them like individuals with personalities.
No.
Okay.
But but I spend a lot of time with them.
You're not like, boy, that tomato sure has a personality on that one.
I spend a lot of time with, and when I'm going to, driving around, doing other things, I'm sometimes thinking about my plants when they're not in my presence. How are they doing? Are the birds out there pecking at are the worms out there, the caterpillars, are they eating my plants? I don't know. I'm being a little silly here, but
that's not terribly unusual, right? Like, I think about my cats as I'm going about my day when I'm not at home. The only difference is they're animals instead of plants, but they're living things just like the plants are.
But they can't have a consensual union, a bonding with you, or can they? Do you think on some level they know what they're about? And after all, cats did domesticate themselves because they wanted to be closer to us and get scraps. And of course, any human population is going to create a lot of rat population.
If it's not a consensual union with an animal, then they're going to try to leave. Right? They're going to do their best to escape.
Good point. You don't feed them. You come home from work one day and your dog is on your neighbor's porch.
Or somewhere else
entirely.
Yeah. So, whatever happened to G?
You know him. He was a wanderer. I lost him 3 times. I got him back 2 of the times.
And then he disappeared.
And then he took off.
And he maybe got hit by a car. Maybe he ended up with somebody else.
I think you know that he was a really good-looking dude.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. I think someone picked him up.
The number here is, he didn't have a tag on or anything, right?
He did. He had a label with his name on it, and my address and phone number.
Oh wow. 603-283-6160. So you'd figure if he got hit, you would have heard about it, right? Because somebody would have.
Unless someone didn't want to deal with it and just threw him off in the ditch or something.
603-283-6160. We got more coming up here on this Japanese man who married an anime doll. More than one of them, apparently. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on Library for years. Library is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, Library launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. The UN Secretary-General has called for Moscow to work with Kiev and the UN to establish humanitarian corridors in Ukraine. Earlier, Antonio Guterres met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Russia. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from the UN.
During a meeting at the Kremlin, the UN chief and the Russian president discussed proposals to evacuate civilians from conflict zones in Ukraine, particularly in the city of Mariupol. The UN says the president agreed, in principle, to the involvement of the UN and the International Committee for the Red Cross in such an evacuation. Earlier in the day, Guterres also had a meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and called for the establishment of a humanitarian contact group, bringing together the Russian Federation, Ukraine and the United Nations to help establish and maintain safe corridors to allow people to escape the fighting. But the Secretary-General said it was clear that there are two different positions on what's happening in Ukraine, with the UN boss maintaining that Russia's so-called special military operation is an invasion that's violated the country's territory and the Charter of the United Nations. Sarah Walton, New York.
Harvard University has created a $100 million fund to acknowledge its links to slavery. The institution is the latest to pay reparations or set up funds to try and atone for past injustices. FSN's Nick Harper reports.
A report commissioned by the university found that it had perpetuated the era's racial oppression and exploitation. It also documented how Harvard excluded black students and teachers. Now, the Legacy of Slavery Fund aims to research and memorialize Harvard's history of slavery. It'll work with descendants of enslaved people who were forced to work at Harvard for around 150 years and bring more black students to study at the Ivy League school for summer programs. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
The US Supreme Court is set to examine whether the Biden administration has the power to terminate a Trump-era immigration policy known as Remain in Mexico. Under the program, migrants seeking asylum must wait on the other side of the border while their cases are being considered. FSN's Tony Waterman has more from Texas.
Lawyers for the Biden administration will ask the Supreme Court to allow it to end former President Donald Trump's signature immigration policy. Formerly known as the Migrant Protection Protocols, the program has forced nearly 70,000 migrants to remain in Mexico while their asylum cases are pending, instead of releasing them into the U.S. as under previous administrations. Critics have called the practice inhumane, saying it puts migrants in danger. Biden paused the program on his first day in office, but efforts to terminate it completely have been stymied in the lower courts, which have found that the president lacked the legal basis to end the policy. Texas and Missouri have challenged the administration's move and are urging the Supreme Court to uphold the lower court rulings. Tony Waterman, Texas.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. Maybe you have an opinion about a man, and he's not the only one.
Yeah, I told you this is not new at all. I pulled up an article. I thought I had the same guy as you. Turns out this is from 2016, a whole different dude.
In Japan.
Who, by the way, married with 2 kids, who also developed a relationship, a love interest in his sex doll that he used when he was off on business trips.
Now, in this case, this is not...
See, I laugh, but I think that's probably healthy, or at least it's healthier than, some of the alternatives.
To bring a sex doll on a business trip?
Yeah.
As opposed to using a prostitute or something like that?
Yeah. That's probably some decision that he and his wife came up with that, allows him to satisfy his needs without cheating on her.
It's a little embarrassing going through TSA.
Well, unless it's becoming commonplace, and then I mean, how many with these? What are these?
Next time I fly, I am 100% packing a sex doll.
What are these things called?
It's gonna be carry-on luggage, man.
How many fleshlights do you think have been discovered in someone's travel suitcase?
I don't know.
By TSA.
Just remove the batteries, because the last thing you want
is to go off when it's going through the machine.
That doesn't end well for anyone. I don't know this from experience, but I've heard stories, right?
By the way, I want to say thanks to Craig Thomas, who is a Free Talk Live supporter via the AMPS Patreon, which you can join over at amps.freetalklive.com. That is how you can support what we do here. Advertise, market, promote, and support is what AMPS stands for. And Craig is a silver level, which means he's doing $5 a month, at least helping us out over there with getting the word out about freedom to more people. So definitely appreciate the support, Craig. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com. Again, Ian, Aria, and Conan in the studio here tonight. We've got an interesting story about a man who has married his anime doll. Apparently he has a handful of these dolls. So when he...
But they're all the same character, right?
Actually, my article says there are... this is from 2016, so I'm sure it's evolved since then. But this guy is claiming there's a company that specializes in 50 different kinds, I guess different models.
Of waifus?
You talking about sex dolls?
Actually, they call them Dutch wives.
I didn't know. I've never known about that terminology. I wonder why they call it that.
I don't know. The Japanese have that's their special term for them. I guess because Dutch are cheap. And,
sex dolls aren't known for being cheap, though.
I know, but it's cheaper than a prostitute. You buy it once and that's it.
That's probably
You just have to make sure you keep it clean, and I guess.
All right. So he has multiple dolls. So actually, when looking further, because you had mentioned you thought at first that this was the same person. You have a story from 2016, not the same guy.
Different guy.
This guy, Akihiko Kondo, was actually quote unquote married in what is called an unofficial wedding ceremony in Tokyo in 2018. And he brought his beloved Hatsune Miku, the anime doll, with him. However, the doll with him at the wedding, and I know this because I've got footage. RT did a documentary about this. It would have been
silly to marry the sex doll while the sex doll wasn't there, right?
What I mean is he had a very small doll that he brought into the wedding. So like because he's holding it, sort of, it's not even as large as his chest.
So he wasn't like standing there next to a life-size doll?
No.
Well, if you're going to go crazy, go all the way.
Well, he's gone further now. The photo in the DNYUZ.com article here, he's got a full-size doll. It's sitting on a bed. He's like doing its hair, basically. Whatever it is that he's doing to it, he's doing something, fixing her hair. So a little more about the story here. He's one of thousands of people in Japan who have entered into unofficial marriages with fictional characters in recent decades, served by a vast industry aimed at satisfying the every whim of fervent fan culture. Tens of thousands more around the globe have joined online groups where they discuss their commitment to characters from anime, manga, and video games. For some, the relationships are just for a laugh, but Mr. Kondo, however, has long known that he didn't want a human partner.
See, this is how you end up with people taking photographs in their IDs with, colanders on their heads. For some of these people, it's just a joke.
No, that's troll. That's trolling right there.
And it was trolling for some of these people too, right?
For some of them,
thousands.
Yeah. And then it became
and it's
real.
not just Japan either. It's China. This is an uptick.
Well,
this is
as
a
I was saying
for
last night, it's just a matter of time before you have people legitimately worshiping a flying spaghetti monster. Just like it was just a matter of time before we genuinely had people marrying sex dolls or waifus or whatever they're calling them.
Partly it was because he rejected the rigid expectations of Japanese family life. But mostly it was because he had always felt an intense and even to himself inexplicable attraction to fictional characters. Accepting his feelings was hard at first, but life with Miku, he argues, has advantages over being with a human partner. She's always there for him. She'll never betray him, and he'll never have to see her get ill or die.
Oh, that's a nice one right there. But the rest of them are that never be betrayed. I guess, well, it happens.
She'll also never stand on her own volition. She'll never look you in the eyes. She'll never tell you anything meaningful.
Unless you have a very vivid imagination, and maybe she is.
Yeah, maybe he does.
I mean, if his imagination is that vivid, then she could also get sick, and she could also cheat on him and all of these other things,
true.
right? If she's capable of doing these positive things in his imagination, she's capable of doing negative things as well. He's going to come home one day and be like, "You've been cheating on me," and just fly off into a rampage, Johnny Depp, Amber Heard style on her.
In order to spice up, I mean, that there are a lot of people out there who like spicy, dramatic relationships. True. I do not.
Then he's going to have to call the police on himself or have himself arrested for abusing a sex doll.
By the way, my guy mentions a very similar reasoning behind his love of his doll. She never betrays. She's not after my money, and I'm tired of modern, rational humans. They are heartless.
Wow.
I'm willing to bet, though, that if you're marrying your sex doll, you probably don't have a ton of money anyway.
Or friends.
That's true. Mr. Kondo sees himself as part of a growing movement of people who identify as, quote, fictosexuals. F-I-C-T-O, as in fiction. Fictosexuals.
Can we not refer to this as a movement?
Sorry
it is. Arya, that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. It is a movement.
It is a devolution, if anything.
They're talking online. They're talking. Well, they probably would never meet in person because they're all incels or whatever. But
yeah, Arya, there's an industry behind this.
They're not incels. They have wives.
Propping this up. Now, here's the question: if you didn't have things like, let's say, for example, our culture, if you didn't have porn sites, would we be in the mess that we're in with all the Zoomers not wanting to have sex, not wanting to have relationships?
Because that's not
children.
a fault of porn. That's a fault of them increasingly identifying their identities to the extent that it becomes impossible for them to actually have sexual intercourse.
Because their porn love is porn interest is too perfect and not even human, so they'll never meet that.
That's fiction. That's never happened. The issue with the Zoomers is that they spend so much time defining what they are sexually and no time actually having sex.
But they're not. They're not sexual.
I know, because they spend all their time defining themselves sexually. I'm a sapiosexual, pansexual, polyamorous. They do this and they have this long.
Yeah, but those are all things that have sex with other human beings, whereas the Zoomers are not. So they spend all their time defining.
Because they spend all their time talking about it. Yes.
I don't know.
We've done an article about this exact subject here on the show. I mean, this is. The issue is that they spend all of their time defining their sexualities and no time actually having sex.
Well, and we are seeing that they're spending less time even being in the company of others in a lot of cases.
Because they have their porn.
Not even hanging out with
They don't
friends.
need real human beings.
I don't think porn is the issue, man. I think that's...
I think the porn in this country is the exact same thing with these sex dolls, except we would laugh at someone with a sex doll in this country, whereas Pornhub is perfectly acceptable. But in Japan, it's not. I mean, these are people, as the article mentioned, these people love their anime.
They've already done surveys.
They love their ficto.
Conan, you talk about laughing at people with the sex dolls. They've already done surveys that show a fairly high number. It's not a majority by any means, but it ain't 1 in 10. It's more like 1 out of 5, if I recall correctly, would say they would be interested in having themselves a sex doll or a sex robot.
People in this country?
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
I'll see if I can pull up some numbers. But there's more to say about the fictosexuals, the new, quote, movement of people that are moving away from any relationships with other humans and instead having them with dolls. There's more coming up here. You can share your thoughts. It's Free Talk Live. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Phones are open here, and we're digging in deeper to this Hatsune Miku, this character who we were introduced to as simply a doll character that a man in Tokyo has married. And he may not be the only one who has done this, because apparently there are thousands of people, according to this story here at dnyuz.com, thousands of people.
All married to the same anime girl.
Well, we don't know about that, but there may be some of them who are.
This is reminding me. Have you seen Her?
Yes. Yeah. This. Do you want to describe what that is?
So Joaquin Phoenix plays a sad incel who basically
in the near future,
very near future, installs a special operating program on his computer. I guess it's an operating program that runs everything for him, runs his house and runs his the lights and the refrigerator, and it's on his computer, and it's an AI which he develops a relationship with over time.
That's right.
A love relationship, a love interest. He becomes his love interest. Spoiler alert! It's been out for many years. At the end, by the way, she is she is evolving over time, which is neat. It's neat, and by the way, it's also it's voiced by Scarlett Johansson, which is she just has a beautiful voice, which is perfect for an operating system. I would love to have an operating system that sounded like Scarlett Johansson.
Would you marry her?
She's an inanimate object, and we're going right back to the initial. What is marriage? Can I marry an inanimate object, or is it different because it's an evolved AI? Anyways, spoiler alert: she evolves. Scarlett, the AI, moves on. But before that happens, Phoenix, the incel, finds out that she's not the only AI. She is. Everyone has access to this particular program. So she's having probably thousands of relationships with incels all over the planet.
Didn't feel so special then,
and well, he kind of broke his heart, and then of course she leaves him and broke his heart even more. So it's very interesting. And that was like 10 years ago, I think. It's an old. That movie's been around, but I recommend it. It's enlightening.
So we're learning about these people who call themselves fictosexuals, which is why, according to DNYUZ.com, this man in Japan, Akihiko Kondo, has decided he's motivated to publicize his wedding to this anime doll and to sit for awkward interviews with news media around the globe. He wants people to know about fictosexuals, that people like him are out there. And with advances in artificial intelligence,
don't all of these people, the people you're talking about, Arya, who are always sitting around trying to define a new sexual character and a new sexual type, isn't at the end of the day all they really want to do is to proclaim to the world that I have just created a new
I don't
type.
Think so.
I'm different.
I'm a new I'm a new type of victim. I'm a new type of individual. I'm not a part of the collective. I am special.
No, to them it's just an intellectual exercise, of how meticulously they can define themselves.
But there
is a coming out aspect of it, though, right?
But they want everyone to know. They spend all of their time
anymore.
They spend all of their time defining who they are as special, and making sure that the whole world knows about it.
Yeah, but if everyone is special, then no one is special.
There's a good way to look at it. So shut up, people. But they're not gonna.
Shut up and get laid. That would solve most of their issues.
Shut up and buy yourself a doll if you can't.
So we were also
Who can't though? That's the issue I have with these incels. It's like, dude, it is not difficult to establish a relationship with someone.
Arya, I've met plenty of incels who freak girls out. I mean, freak them out.
Look, there are solutions to all of those problems. They just have to.
Sure, you have to work at it, though.
Yeah. They just have to not be creeps.
Yeah, but what if it's not a physical problem? You're fat and you don't take care of yourself, but you actually have a mental disability where you are just a creep. You are genetically creep.
Well, I don't know if that's a thing, but
sure it is.
It
is.
No, it's not a thing at all.
It's environment, right?
A creep is just someone who comes.
It's both.
I could tell. A creep is someone who comes onto you to whom you're not attracted. That's what a creep is.
Yeah,
that's what everyone defines a creep as. No one's creeped out by someone they find attractive coming onto them. It's always someone they're not attracted to. That's a creep.
The other bullet point is the creep doesn't pick up on it. Doesn't pick up on the signals.
So they're autistic.
Or socially inept.
Or socially inept. Socially disabled.
So,
but that can all be fixed.
It can, I think. I was reading on our social media, actually, just was scrolling through social.freetalklive.com, and you can do what they call boosting on there, which is the equivalent of like a retweet. And so somebody boosted somebody else's post. This was from off of our server, but on another person's server, of an individual who described him or herself as an incel. I presume himself. But they may be female incels. But anyway.
There absolutely are.
Yeah.
But
they become feminists with short, spiky green hair and overweight Ghostbuster fans.
But it was a really sad story, kind of like told his life story in 4 paragraphs, where he doesn't have any relationship with anyone, basically. Like when he was in middle school, he had almost no friends. And then that didn't change in high school and in college, and now he's a total incel and has no relationships, no ability to be with people. You're right, Arya. This can be changed.
I know, but how does that even happen? How do you go through middle school without having any friends?
I don't know. It's crazy.
They exist.
But
they absolutely
those
exist.
People exist, and those are the people who have no ability to interact with other humans.
I know that they exist. I have to think that they didn't have friends in middle school. You know, when it's easier than ever to make friends because they didn't want any friends.
Well, anyway, those are the kind of people who are going to marry dolls.
Yes.
You know,
and or have relationships with their anime star.
Well, now this is also an interesting detail about this story is as you looked into this Hatsune Miku Aria, we discovered that she, quote unquote, isn't just an anime doll. Because again, this man married a doll of this person. She's allegedly not even in anime. She just looks like she belongs in an anime. She's drawn in that style. But apparently what it is that she is a Vocaloid. And now this is
another new word.
This
another
is
new
something
term.
I had not heard of. It is software, according to Wikipedia, that originally came out.
By the way, it sounds like something from Doctor Who. Vocaloids have attacked.
It originally came out in 2004, and it is a commercial product by the Yamaha Corporation that essentially is a synthesizer for singers. So this character is a more recent Vocaloid episode or iteration or release or whatever, and apparently there's something like 22,000 songs that have been written with this character as the main singer, and it's all, I presume, done by her fans and the people that use this Vocaloid software to create music. You played some of it during the break, and it's so you're screechingly bad.
It is, man.
I would feel sorry for our listeners if we actually played any of it on the air.
Yeah, but if you put some death metal to that, you would totally be listening to it.
There may be. You could look it up. Look for Hatsune Miku death metal.
I'm
bet
sure
somebody did that.
that's probably all of baby metal is using this program. You said 22,000 songs, right?
Yeah.
So the fans and what, 20 years now? 15 years?
No. I don't know when she came out.
No. This Vocaloid program.
Vocaloid's been around since 2004. She is apparently 2007.
There you go. So I mean,
it's been around for a while.
That makes sense. 22,000 songs. You had the fans who are using this program. I'm surprised this hasn't caught on in the States. Being able to just
it's
input
completely stupid.
Input.
Why? I mean, there's all kinds of...
This is a neat... Look at Bonnie over there on her rap. She's probably putting animal ears on her portrait. What is the... You know what I'm talking about? These silly apps. The cat ears, yeah.
Bonnie, do you want this microphone to respond to him?
I mean, so I actually think this is so much more entertaining to actually create a song. You just input the lyrics and you find a beat that you like and you put it together.
And you get a singer.
I used to play with a program called Fruity Loops, which is basically a drum machine that you can input all your little
there's a lot of people that make music on these programs.
Yes, and I hate them.
Well, okay.
I play an actual instrument that requires actual skill.
You know, I'm the synth guy. I love that sound. And it's another instrument.
Synth has its place.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not fair because people that make electronic music have skill in music creation.
Yeah, going back to Doctor Who, have you ever seen the making of the original Doctor Who theme?
No.
It's like the first synth production ever. And the way they put that, oh, wow, it's just, and if you know the theme I'm talking about. Yeah. So they are putting sounds together. They're putting sounds together, all analog style, and they're replaying them. It's bizarre how it was so complicated compared to say Fruity Loops, which is you just put a drum beat down, lickety split, you got a song in 2 minutes.
But you still have to have an ear for music. You still have to have some idea of composition and knowing what you're doing. And I say this as someone who does not know what he's doing and has never attempted to do anything like this. You know, some of that stuff is going to be bad. Probably of the 22,000 songs, probably 21,900 and some are terrible.
Absolute crap. Well, you've heard people going to the karaoke.
Yeah.
I'm thinking especially people of a particular country. It's horrible. They all sound like Shatner singing Spaceman or whatever.
The number is 603-283-6160. If you want to weigh in on Vocaloids marrying anime dolls, it's this bizarre world we live in. There's more to say about it coming up in hour number 2 at 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. The United Nations Secretary-General is calling on Moscow and Kiev to work with the UN to create humanitarian corridors that allow safe passage for civilians out of Ukraine. Harvard University has created a $100 million fund to help address its history of slavery and allow it to make reparations. And the US Supreme Court is looking at whether the Biden administration can end a Trump-era immigration policy known as Remain in Mexico. The UN Secretary-General has called for Moscow to work with Kiev and the UN to establish humanitarian corridors in Ukraine. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from the UN.
During a meeting at the Kremlin, the UN chief and the Russian president discussed proposals to evacuate civilians from conflict zones in Ukraine, particularly in the city of Mariupol. The UN says the president agreed in principle to the involvement of the UN and the International Committee for the Red Cross in such an evacuation. Earlier in the day, Guterres also had a meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and called for the establishment of a humanitarian contact group, bringing together the Russian Federation, Ukraine and the United Nations to help establish and maintain safe corridors to allow people to escape the fighting. But the Secretary-General said it was clear that there are two different positions on what's happening in Ukraine, with the UN boss maintaining that Russia's so-called special military operation is an invasion that's violated the country's territory and the Charter of the United Nations.
Harvard University has created a $100 million fund to acknowledge its links to slavery. FSN's Nick Harper reports.
A report commissioned by the university found that it had perpetuated the era's racial oppression and exploitation. It also documented how Harvard excluded black students and teachers. Now, the Legacy of Slavery Fund aims to research and memorialize Harvard's history of slavery.
The US Supreme Court is set to examine whether the Biden administration has the power to terminate a Trump-era immigration policy known as Remain in Mexico. FSN's Tony Waterman has more from Texas.
Lawyers for the Biden administration will ask the Supreme Court to allow it to end former President Donald Trump's signature immigration policy. Formerly known as the Migrant Protection Protocols, the program has forced nearly 70,000 migrants to remain in Mexico while their asylum cases are pending, instead of releasing them into the U.S. as under previous administrations. Critics have called the practice inhumane, saying it puts migrants in danger. Biden paused the program on his first day in office, but efforts to terminate it completely have been stymied in the lower courts, which have found that the president lacked the legal basis to end the policy. Texas and Missouri have challenged the administration's move and are urging the Supreme Court to uphold the lower court rulings.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, missed opportunities in Germany. They're under the microscope as the US and its allies pile pressure on Chancellor Olaf Scholz to stop spending $1 billion a day on Russian oil. But Germany's dependence on Moscow for energy is hard to break because the Chancellor's predecessors, Gerhard Schröder and Angela Merkel, failed to take action early enough to secure alternative supplies. Former Chancellor Schröder is all in with the Russians, still heading the sanctioned Nord Stream pipeline project. But what of Angela Merkel? Philippe Piatoff is a columnist and opinion editor at the German tabloid Bild.
She was seen as the leader of the free world, but it was her that didn't see Putin's plan to attack Ukraine, to attack the West, although he was saying it all the time. And I just don't understand. I mean, Germany left nuclear energy after Fukushima. I think we were the only country in the world to leave nuclear energy, to close down our nuclear plants after Fukushima. That happened in Japan. And we turned again to Russian gas, to Russian oil, and now we're sending billions of euros every month to the Kremlin financing this war.
He says a majority of Germans say they would support an embargo on Russian gas, which is also increasing the pressure on Chancellor Scholz and his delicately poised governing coalition. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. The United Nations Secretary-General is calling on Moscow and Kiev to work with the UN to create humanitarian corridors that allow safe passage for civilians out of Ukraine. Harvard University has created a $100 million fund to help address its history of slavery and allow it to make reparations. And the US Supreme Court is looking at whether the Biden administration can end a Trump-era immigration policy known as Remain in Mexico. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Caroline Malone reporting.
Calling it the most effective means to reaching one's full earning potential. A new report issued by the Employee Benefit Research Institute this week found that violently slamming one's supervisor against a wall and shouting, "Cash, I need more cash," is still the leading tactic for securing a raise amongst American workers.
We found that employees have the most success negotiating their salaries when they stride confidently into their supervisor's office, manhandle them like a rag doll, and demand more money right now.
Experts confirmed that the majority of employees who managed to increase their salaries maintained direct eye contact with their supervisors while reiterating that they were not f***ing around, emphasizing their position with phrases such as, "Give me the money now," and "I said more cash, old man." The Onion sat down with Kevin Simmons, who recently applied these methods in negotiating a competitive bump in his annual salary.
So the other day I walked right into his office, grabbed his throat with my hand, and told him straight up, "Start paying me more f***ing money today." And I grabbed $100 out of his wallet and told him that was a good start.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us here, at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We just keep digging into this story that at first was just about a man in Tokyo who's married an anime-looking doll. Turns out the doll is a doll of not an anime character, but of another fictional type of character, a Vocaloid.
Ian, we're going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
this is deeper and deeper than we thought.
It's very interesting, and
the whole culture revolved around this.
Really is true. There's thousands of people who've married inanimate dolls in Tokyo or in Japan, apparently, and it's spreading to other places for sure. But the character in this particular case is a what they call a Vocaloid. And what that is software that allows you, if you're a musical creator or you want to be one, and you've got the idea for a song in your head, and of course you mentioned some software, Conan, that people can use to create music. Well, there's now also software, and there's been apparently since 2004 at least, this Vocaloid software where you type out the lyrics you want. I presume you can choose from different voices, but one of the characters is this Hatsune Miku, and she, quote unquote, will sing the song for you.
Yeah, that's really weird, man, because there's a lot of variables, in singing. It can't be as simple as just typing out some lyrics and telling
like inflections in your voice. And
So I'm curious. I'm tempted to play with this thing now.
Just to see how it works?
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I think it could be very entertaining. But I mean, as far as the simplicity, I mean, you have, all of pop songs these days, like all of them are written by a couple of dudes.
That's been the case since like the 60s.
Yeah, but you have these very talented musicians who specialize in not just they actually break it down and turn it into math. It's like what they know when to put the hook. They know how many beats and they use the same chords for all of these songs, and they just play them. They just change the tempo or they change the rhythm, and they know what works. Because this is their specialty.
Yeah, it's been experimented on over, and they've tested them with audiences or whatever.
So why can't you have some very smart programmers who do the same thing with technology?
It's being done.
Being done.
You look for Hatsune Miku on YouTube, and you'll find she's got. I just did a search by view count, 56 million views for one of her songs, quote unquote, from 2012. Complete with graphics done by Sega.
That makes nothing but sense.
That doesn't make any sense.
It
Conan.
makes perfect sense because one day we are not even going to need to hire human being actors and watch them in court having spats, learning about what they did to each other and did what to each other in their bed. We'll just have these computer generated AI which will do everything for us.
Let's go to Sam. He's on the line in Ohio. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, hey, Ian. So I just keep reading these ridiculous headlines about Florida man did this or whatever. And since I know you're from Florida, I just wanted to hear what you had to say about all these ridiculous headlines that come out all the time.
Dude, it is hot in Florida.
Give us an example of a recent one that caught your attention.
Florida man beat other person over the head with chicken wing.
Okay.
It's a
meme.
It's not a very good one.
Florida man is a meme. I mean, there's crazy stories from everywhere. It's just, for whatever reason, the mainstream media started putting the words Florida man in front of.
It does appear that there's a lot of crazy people who somehow originate.
It just gets you more hits on the internet. That's all. You put Florida man in your story, and it's like, boom, you get more view count for the story.
Well, if there is any truth to it, I haven't seen the numbers. That would be an interesting study to see all of the wacky headlines and where they originate from. But I know it's very hot. It is very humid, and I think that might agitate people. I think they just might. I got to get out of this place. I got to get out of this house.
You're going to find plenty of
my
white
air conditioner's
trash.
broken. The fan doesn't work. This trailer is hot.
Plenty of trailer trash in other states, and
rednecks, hicks, hillbillies.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any
folk.
Go ahead.
All I'm trying to say is that you hear more about it. That's all. I just find it kind of funny.
Yeah, it's because it's become a meme. I don't know if there's any real truth to the idea that Florida man is somehow trashier or worse or whatever, more consistently entertaining than other people elsewhere. But I will admit there are some very entertaining stories out there.
And they do seem to come from Florida.
Sam, any comments on Hatsune Miku or marrying anime dolls?
I think it's weird.
Thank you, Sam, for the call tonight. Appreciate it. The number is 603-283-6160. But, of course, as you pointed out, Conan,
it's cultural.
It's weird.
It's not acceptable in that country.
Into the United States, it's weird.
But in Asia, it is.
I'm not sure how acceptable it is in Japan, though.
Thousands of people.
Yeah, but they're not like taking their waifus home for their family reunion.
They are. They're taking them out to dinner. They're taking them to movies. They're taking them out to the bench to feed the pigeons.
They've married them. They've married these characters.
We haven't heard anything in this story about someone taking their waifu out to a movie theater, man.
We haven't gotten there yet. We got on the Vocaloids.
All right.
They're taking them out to dinner. This is, and it's not culturally frowned upon. It's their thing. I
think they got to be getting weird looks, man.
Yeah, by the old boomer Japanese. Not the youngers are all about it. The hermit class.
I'm just picturing myself, walking into like the Vietnamese place here in Keene and seeing somebody sitting there with like a sex doll at the table with them. It's just like, dude, what? No.
Give it a few years. We're always a little behind.
He wants the world. By the way, this is the man who married this doll. Akihiko Kondo is his name. He's the real one. He says he wants the world to know that people like him are out there, and with advances in artificial intelligence and robotics allowing for more profound interactions with the inanimate, that their number are likely to increase. And I think he's right about that.
Yeah.
For the fact that people say this is weird right now, it is likely going to start becoming more common in the United States, with a lot of people who cannot interact with other humans and would rather just turn within and be completely cut off from the rest of the world
until the pendulum swings back the other way.
I mean,
and I think that we are at the tipping point. So I think
towards what, more social interaction.
I think that is only going to become natural that we will get back to community values, because we've gone so far left that we can't really go any further. It's going to collapse. It's going to crash, and then they're going to go back to more traditional type of culture. Which is just the way that it works, because this guy isn't going to have babies. He can't. He's not going to be able to continue this past his own life, so that's the end of the. Darwin says if if
he has a child, it means less time for his doll.
Exactly, but he can't. This type of ideology won't continue past this guy. So the question is, how are the Zoomers going to pick up the slack? What are they going to do?
The Zoomers are the ones doing this.
No.
He's 38.
The guy in my article, the guy from my article is like 60 something.
It's not unusual for a work of art to provoke real emotions, anger, sorrow, joy, and the phenomenon of desiring the fictional is not unique to Japan. This is from dnyuz.com. But the idea that fictional characters can inspire real affection or even love may well have reached its highest expression in modern Japan, where the sentiment has given rise to a highly visible subculture and become the basis for a thriving industry.
See, that's sort of where the issue is, though. I mean, people develop emotional attachments to inanimate objects and things like that. That's generally a way of coping with abandonment and isolation and things like that. Treating them like they're real, even having a sex doll, I'm not going to say is particularly weird. To each their own. However, developing an emotional attachment to that sex doll suggests that you're dealing with some abandonment or isolation issues that you should be dealing with in a healthier way than finding a wife who are marrying your pillow or whatever it is these people are doing. You have a mental health issue, and you need to find a way of dealing with that productively.
Yeah, but why so many? Do all of these? Does this growing numbers of people? Do they all have mental issues?
Probably.
Almost by definition, they're marrying pillows and sex dolls. They have mental health issues.
Can I just say the most disturbing part about all of this? This is so unhygienic. Taking your sex doll out to the dinner
Well, we don't know if he's having sex with this doll. It's not been made clear that there's an actual sex doll involved in at least this man.
Give it a shower.
There's more coming up here in moments. It's Free Talk Live.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Are you making sense to the boomer mindset? I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com. 80 million baby boomers comprise 25% of the population and control most of the USA's wealth. As aging parents pass on, they'll control more. Boomers are 46 to 65 years old and regard themselves as midlife. They identify as neither young nor old. They're post-minivan and pre-retirement, and they don't like being called boomers. They think me. Many of the purchases boomer couples make are individual purposes. They've been experimenters all their lives. If you want their attention, tell stories and keep it simple. If something seems complicated, boomers can dismiss it as, I don't need this. And if you're looking for work, you may be applying to a boomer, so relate accordingly. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian,
Aria,
and Conan.
And you can join us online. Head over to freetalklive.com. Enjoy the features waiting for you there. Lots of stuff on freetalklive.com. Archives go back for many years and downloadable for free. So head over to freetalklive.com. As of now, thankfully, we cannot be replaced by Vocaloids because we have to think up new things to say every single moment.
But one day.
But, well, maybe someday.
I mean, we might even be training the new AI. Well, no, the new AI that is going to take over as we speak.
I think we'll be dead before AI gets to
Google.
that point.
We might be, every time someone is searching and adding to the internet, Google is sitting there learning from all of human cultures all across the planet are inputting, and it's learning and evolving as we speak.
Could be. But for now, you have to talk to us. You can't talk to a Vocaloid at this point. Vocaloids, as we've learned tonight, is a software that has been around since 2004. There have been different iterations. New versions of it, of course, have come out over time, likely becoming more complicated and better at doing what it does, which is
very expensive, by the way.
Oh, is it?
$225 for the standard version. The
$225
for the smallest
That's
package.
Not that bad. I mean, if you think about it,
premium is $360.
If you're a pro music producer, and just think of how much it would cost you to hire a vocalist to come into a studio. Like, you've come up with a song, you want to produce it, and you want to pay a human who's got to come in and take after take after take until they finally, hopefully, get it right. Yep. You're paying them by the hour or whatever.
And that's what I was saying in the last segment. Get rid of these actors.
Right.
Replace them with AI. Replace them with a Vocaloid, and then that's the next step. So now you have something that can actually sing.
That's right. A $300 program that can do whatever kind of singing, apparently, that you want it to. Now, we don't know. Now, Aria, you're saying you might actually try it just to see how it goes.
not spending $300 on this nonsense, though.
I bet there are ways.
I'm sure there are ways, but yes.
But just to see what it can do. And I remember there was something in the broadcast industry publications talking about something similar for commercial production, where you can go and type in words and have different voices say those words who are not actual humans. And I tried it out, and it's almost there. Like if you know what you're listening for, you could easily say, oh yeah, this is a robot.
There are plenty of newscasts, talking heads, which are in fact these programs.
Oh, is that right?
They've just input the audio. I mean the message.
Yeah.
And you don't have to pay an actor.
Is it like a computer generated person?
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, let me see. I'm going to try to find some examples of that. Might be something interesting to play on the show.
Well, let's go first to Major Payne in Michigan. You're on Free Talk Live, Major.
Hey, good evening.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of our fearless leaders, Kamala Harris, has she's been vaccinated 1, 2, 3, 4 times now. Ha ha ha. She's caught in the thing again.
Yep, and the same thing. And, same with
she's had it more than once?
The COVID virus, yeah, she's already had it once, I guess, and now she's caught it again.
Yeah, same thing with Jen Psaki.
The funny part that really convinces me that God has a sense of humor is that her last vaccination she got on April Fool's Day.
Huh. Yeah, that is interesting. And of course, they always say the same prayer when they have this. They give the same public prayer to Fauci and if I didn't have the vaccines, this would be so much worse.
Yep, every single time.
Yep.
That has no basis in fact, though. That's
just belief. It's a prayer. It's a religion. You're absolutely right.
Well, she's working from home and nobody's seen her, so nobody can actually say whether she's symptomatic or not symptomatic. But I mean, the people that have gotten the shots are the ones that are dropping dead.
There are some of those people.
Some are dying, some are getting sick, some are getting the virus again.
The people that got natural immunity are faring a whole lot better.
Well, they're not talking about that fact.
No, and they never will, because that ain't gonna make Pfizer no money.
Nope, it ruins the narrative. But you know what? Now we've got Ukraine. Now we've got something else to worry about. Some other religion, some other prayers for the children.
Thank you, Major. Appreciate the call tonight. The number is 603-283-6160. So what started this whole conversation is this man in Japan who is one of apparently thousands who've married inanimate characters. In this case, a Vocaloid character that someone made some dolls out of. He went ahead and quote-unquote married that in an unofficial ceremony, of which there is video. RT has video footage of this actually happening. They talk about the feelings that these characters evoke in them. The Japanese word for the feelings that they inspire is mo, a term that has become shorthand for just about anything that is viscerally adorable. Business seminars have talked about tapping the mo market, and the government has promoted the notion in relation to cartoons as an important cultural export. The word and other specialized terms have resonated beyond Japan, with what are called fictosexuals abroad, often adopting them to articulate their own experience of love. While unofficially marrying fictional characters remains rare, the economic juggernaut that has grown around Japanese fan culture since the late 70s has made it possible for many more people to live out elaborate fantasies with their favorite characters. Quote, you have the comics, the cartoons, the games, kind of building up a sort of infrastructure where characters become more important to people, said Patrick Galbraith, associate professor in the School of International Communication at Senshu University in Tokyo, who's written about the subject extensively. In Tokyo, 2 districts, that's physical areas, have become meccas for fulfilling character-based dreams. Akihabara for men and Ikebukuro for women. Specialty shops in the neighborhoods are packed with merchandise for characters from popular games and anime. The products for women are especially extensive. Fans can buy love letters from their crushes, reproductions of their clothes, and even scents meant to evoke their presence. Hotels offer special packages featuring spa treatments and elaborate meals for people celebrating their favorite character's birthday. And on social media, people post photos, art, and mash notes promoting their oshi, a term widely used by Japanese fans to describe objects of their affection. Now, if you look at what happens in the United States, people get into their favorite TV shows, right?
They love their actor, actress. And
they do.
They love watching the drama, and they watch 3 weeks of court cases because they're just, they're gods.
And there are magazines, People Magazine, Us Magazine. There's magazines that are all about these, tabloid, people-esque, follow the stars. Oh, who's sleeping with who.
Yeah, but no one is marrying a pillow that's shaped like Johnny Depp or whatever.
Not yet.
And I'm just thinking of, I don't know, footage of, many, many years ago before my day, of the Beatles and Elvis and the women they were going crazy. And it's like, I don't know that I've seen that physically, but I'm sure people in their heads these days, they're still there. We haven't really changed. So
Cyberpunk 2077, though, it does have a character based off Keanu Reeves, who apparently looks a lot like Keanu Reeves. And
Isn't he voiced by Keanu Reeves?
I think so.
Yeah. Isn't there another?
But you can't marry this character or have any relationship with them in the game.
Not yet. We're waiting for that patch. We're waiting for that mod / patch.
They're never going to patch that in, apparently. However,
a fan will.
Fans will do. Sorry, you're making
leave it to the fans.
They don't have Keanu Reeves to voice it. How are they going to patch that in? You have to have the actor to do
hundreds of hours of movies of him talking.
Yeah, you could. There's programs that can do that stuff. More coming up.
Free Talk Live.
We're talking about the immigration situation here in this country. Now, Jeff, you have a 5-point plan. I'd like for you to go over the 5 points again.
Oh, sure. Hold on. I just got to turn to the page.
That's fine. And if you, he's got pages worth of notes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Number one, close the borders. Put up a barrier on the border. And I mean,
a barrier. Like a Great Wall?
Yeah, a Great Wall, barrier, stone wall.
Right.
I mean, something that's secure. And then you put a moat underneath.
Holy crap. Alligators in the moat?
All right. Now, you've got more, though, right? We got a wall and a moat, and then what?
And you can put sensors on there. The motion detector.
Motion tracking machine guns, too. Spit out some 50 cals at them if it moves.
Ninjas. That's what we need. We just need ninjas mounted at 10-foot intervals along this wall.
The border ninjas.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. The UN Secretary General has called for Moscow to work with Kiev and the UN to establish humanitarian corridors in Ukraine. Earlier, Antonio Guterres met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Russia. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from the UN.
During a meeting at the Kremlin, the UN chief and the Russian president discussed proposals to evacuate civilians from conflict zones in Ukraine, particularly in the city of Mariupol. The UN says the president agreed in principle to the involvement of the UN and the International Committee for the Red Cross in such an evacuation. Earlier in the day, Guterres also had a meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and called for the establishment of a humanitarian contact group, bringing together the Russian Federation, Ukraine and the United Nations to help establish and maintain safe corridors to allow people to escape the fighting. But the Secretary-General said it was clear that there are two different positions on what's happening in Ukraine, with the UN boss maintaining that Russia's so-called special military operation is an invasion that's violated the country's territory and the Charter of the United Nations. Sarah Walton, New York.
Harvard University has created a $100 million fund to acknowledge its links to slavery. The institution is the latest to pay reparations or set up funds to try and atone for past injustices. FSN's Nick Harper reports.
A report commissioned by the university found that it had perpetuated the era's racial oppression and exploitation. It also documented how Harvard excluded black students and teachers. Now, the Legacy of Slavery Fund aims to research and memorialize Harvard's history of slavery. It'll work with descendants of enslaved people who were forced to work at Harvard for around 150 years and bring more black students to study at the Ivy League school for summer programs. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
The US Supreme Court is set to examine whether the Biden administration has the power to terminate a Trump-era immigration policy known as Remain in Mexico. Under the program, migrants seeking asylum must wait on the other side of the border while their cases are being considered. FSN's Tony Waterman has more from Texas.
Lawyers for the Biden administration will ask the Supreme Court to allow it to end former President Donald Trump's signature immigration policy. Formerly known as the Migrant Protection Protocols, the program has forced nearly 70,000 migrants to remain in Mexico while their asylum cases are pending, instead of releasing them into the U.S. as under previous administrations. Critics have called the practice inhumane, saying it puts migrants in danger. Biden paused the program on his first day in office, but efforts to terminate it completely have been stymied in the lower courts, which have found that the president lacked the legal basis to end the policy. Texas and Missouri have challenged the administration's move and are urging the Supreme Court to uphold the lower court rulings. Tony Waterman, Texas.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever's on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about an interesting, and some would say disturbing, phenomenon of love for a character. And I'm not talking about, like, typical fandom, although these are, I think, just differences in degrees, right?
I don't know, man. We talked about Doctor Who earlier. I love Clara, the character for the 10 or 11. I don't remember which Doctor it was, but she was great.
But would you marry her?
I would marry the actress.
Was she playing a robot?
No, she was playing a person.
One of his assistants?
Yeah, one of his companions.
But that's so you're talking.
Clara was the character's name. I don't know what the actress's name was.
So a fictional character, which is actually played by a real person.
But I wasn't attracted to the fictional character. I was attracted to the really hot actress.
Oh, okay. So you're physically attracted to the actress. You don't really love the quote-unquote character. That's a different statement.
You know, I'm the other way around because I hate these actors and actresses. Most of them are buffoons.
We don't know anything about them.
Most of them are leftists, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
But the actual fictional character, that's someone that has an actual background that might be a hell of a lot more interesting.
Yeah, but it's fictional.
But that's the whole point. Why do people read books or watch movies or do anything that's in another reality? It's escapism.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Why do people play video games?
That's very different from falling in love with a fictional character.
But it's only a
the
difference
same
in
thing.
degrees. Okay, so
if anything, like I said, this guy has a vivid imagination. If anything, he's taken it to the next level. So a lot of people. So I don't like spending all my time watching TV because I would rather be doing something that I interact with, like a video game, which is it takes more of me. It takes more of input.
Yeah.
Whereas. That I can just sit down and veg out watching a show. There's a lot more involved. But this guy's taken it to the next level where he's actually creating. He's probably got nicknames for her, and they probably have.
He has a quote unquote relationship.
Favorite pastimes, and he's got more than one too. So I guess one is not enough.
This is, in my opinion, just another degree of like fan fiction, right?
Yeah.
Like think about all the people that do fan fiction
or cosplay.
Yeah, that's another factor.
Or go to events. They go to these events
and
where
play the character.
Yep,
right?
Yep. Medieval times.
Yeah. So we look at this and say, oh, what a weird thing. But I mean, this is just another thing.
How is this any different than some Civil War enactor? What's it called?
Reenactment.
Yeah.
Well, that's done for entertainment purposes. This guy's doing this to satisfy his need for
entertainment.
Companionship. No, he's doing it to satisfy his need for companionship because he's isolated and lonely.
Yeah. Why do people dress up in?
That's very different from my old grandfather going out to a Civil War.
Well, the reenactors are getting together with other humans.
Yeah,
so
this is true. This is true.
They're playing a game,
but they're
together.
reenacting something that's why would you ever want to be on the losing team, for example?
The difference is between someone who plays a murderer in a movie and someone who goes out and actually kills people. Like one of these is real, the other one's playing a character for entertainment purposes.
We'll talk more about what the phenomenon that is really just a thing in Tokyo, apparently, where there's even shopping districts where people can go and buy things from their favorite characters and become ever more drawn into their fantasy world. Let's go first, though, to TJ the Spy, calling us on our SIP line, which you can access anytime you want when we're on the air over at sip.freetalklive.com. That's sip.freetalklive.com. Go ahead, TJ.
Thanks, brother. I just wanted to say congratulations on if you bet 30, the over, the under, the number of charges in the superseding indictment, you win. So, and no hard feelings. I know I proposed to marry you so that I wouldn't be forced to be testifying against you at your trial, and you said no. And James said he's totally fine with it, though. But I understand, and I don't think they're going to call me because I didn't know anything, but I wanted to talk about Bitcoin Gold because I was going over the bill of particulars where they seized your Cassius coin that you got from Roger Ver.
That's right.
And they redeemed the Bitcoin, obviously, using the secret key. And they also redeemed the Bitcoin Cash, which is a fork of Bitcoin.
They did, yes. That's right.
And they forgot to redeem the Bitcoin Gold.
You shouldn't be telling them those things, TJ.
Well,
they also, by that token, they forgot to redeem the Bitcoin SV, didn't they?
Did they take the wrong? Yes. Did they take the wrong Bitcoin vending machine too? These guys didn't know what they were doing.
They took all of the Bitcoin vending machines
after they realized they grabbed the wrong machine and then came all the way back.
Safe. I think they took the safe.
I'm talking about that the store.
Yeah, they took the store safe and realized they shouldn't have done that. That was what happened.
Yeah,
at least that's what I've heard. So yeah.
Well, anyway, how are you feeling? You holding up well? I assume. No, you're not like in tears and ready to jump off
we
a
knew
building,
this was
right?
going to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we knew that this was going to likely happen. I mean, none of us are enjoying this process, but it is what it is, and we're going to do the best we can to fight these charges.
Well, I'm praying for you guys, and I hope it's a clean sweep. And all I want to know is, are you going to go to a woman's prison if she gets convicted?
We don't know.
That's another excellent question. Let's hope we don't ever have to find out.
Aria, I think you're a wonderful co-defendant just because this whole trial is absurdity piled upon absurdity piled upon more absurdity. And I just thought, I wish Rich wouldn't have taken the plea deal, of course, because I would have loved to have had a defendant named Nobody testify at the trial. That would have been, and the whole naming some trans reform satanic anarchist church or whatever. I mean, like the jury, I don't know how they're going to react, but it's definitely going to be an entertaining trial.
I mean, it will be entertaining. I sort of wish, more people had not taken deals as well, but I understand.
I don't blame them.
No, I understand where they're coming from, and they came at me with the same thing. You can plead guilty or you can face additional charges. I don't blame anyone for saying, you know what? No, I'm going to take this known variable here and I'm going to stick with that because I know how bad that's going to be. So I don't blame anyone for not being willing to do that. It would have been more entertaining, I think, to have, myself, Ian, and Nobody up there. But the point of this isn't, I hope that, people watching it are entertained, but my goal here is not to entertain anyone.
No, I know. It's to get not guilty verdict, but Ian always said if you're not enjoying what you're doing in life, you're doing it wrong, or, words to those effects. So I hope you guys aren't too distressed. And I've been through something similar, so it was hard on me when I went through it. And in hindsight, you're like, yeah, what was the big deal? So what if the government makes all these accusations? But at the time, it was like, how dare they accuse me of this? I'm innocent, Well,
sure, but the worst they can do is, throw me in prison for the rest of my life or kill me or something. I mean, their power to destroy me is limited to that. They can't take away my spirit. They can't take away my smile. They can't do any of that. No matter how much they may want to, I will still be here and I will still be laughing. I'll still be enjoying my life in one way or another. And there's nothing they can do to take that away.
Well, good. And I'll be there in November to be Mr. Bitcoin.
Well, that presumes the trial goes off that soon. We will see about dates and that sort of thing.
And wait a minute before we lose, TJ.
Yeah.
What God do you pray to? Because aren't you a bit of a pagan?
God is, God is one of those. I pray to the God that gave me James because I was very sad and depressed and miserable and suicidal. And James being in my life, he makes me feel just not happy, but just a hell of a lot less miserable. So,
which God gets us the not guilty verdict?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I've been reading and I just said when James was on trial for, parking meters or not, when he was on for resisting arrest and filming the police, the jury actually said, does the size of the camera matter? in regards to the First Amendment to considering whether he has a right to film. And jurors are very fickle. You don't know how they're going to rule.
Yep.
And, I know you guys got the best attorneys and you got a good defense, and I hope you guys give them hell.
Thank you, TJ, for the call tonight. Definitely appreciate it. We continue here. Olivia is on the line in Arizona. You're on Free Talk Live, Olivia.
Hey, so I wanted to add just one more thing to what I said yesterday about recycling. I didn't mean to spark a debate. I just wanted to give a few pointers so that people don't clog up the works. But I wanted to talk about market recycling in the free market.
All right, stand by. We'll continue here in a moment. The number is 603-283-6160. It definitely did spark quite a discussion on last night's show because, well, recycling is for the most part a total government boondoggle and a complete make-work program. But there's more on the way, and Olivia will share her thoughts coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You can join the show by dialing in at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com. You ready to learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash? You can get over to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started right there at the top of the page. And that is where you can learn more about cryptocurrency, get the basics down. You can dig in as deep, of course, to this topic as you would like, but a great place to get started is Bitcoin.com. Just click Get Started at the top of the page. If you are not brand new to crypto and you want to get the latest news headlines about Bitcoin and other cryptos, get over to news.bitcoin.com. They've got them there for you every day. That's news.bitcoin.com. Here tonight, it's Ian.
Aria.
And Conan.
Back to Olivia. She had a couple things to share. You had some thoughts on recycling. You're apparently a supporter of the procedure, but go ahead with your thoughts.
Oh, yeah. So you kind of favored more of recycling in the marketplace. So I just wanted to mention a few pointers for recycling in the marketplace, which is those plastic bag collection bins that they have like at the front of Walmart to recycle the plastic bags that you use. I see people putting all kinds of plastic in there, and it should really only be number 2 or number 4, like stretchy plastic film, not cling wrap, but like clean plastic bags. And you can tell if it's number 2 or number 4 plastic because if you rip it, it'll tear in like waves. It'll make little waves or ripples on the tear. If it tears in a straight line, like a Tootsie Roll bag or something like that, you can't recycle it in those bins. So I just wanted to throw that out there because people will throw anything in there, and it can only be those number 2 and number 4 soft plastic bags.
I'm sort of surprised that people are returning Walmart bags to Walmart. I assume everyone, or at least most people, reuse them as like trash bags
or litter
something.
bags or whatnot. Yeah, I reuse all of mine. By the way, we used to collect those plastic bags at our recycling center, and they reneged on that. They said no more because it was getting caught in the gears.
Wow.
So if you don't have the right machine to process those plastic bags, they can be very problematic.
Costly.
So they said, nope, no more of that. Just throw them in the trash, and we'll just bury them in the hill.
That's what I said last night. I was like, don't put plastic, don't bag your recycling, don't put bags and cords and electronics in the recycling bin. Like, please take those to Best Buy because they jam the rollers.
Yep.
So,
or just throw it all out because recycling's a total waste of time.
Yeah, because you know what, Olivia, I don't think there's a whole lot of product out there that actually is profitable to recycle. I mean, there are
with the exception of metal.
With the exception of metal, especially aluminum.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a list right here. I didn't even realize cooking oil is a good thing to recycle. They can actually turn that into, you can reuse that. But appliances, electronics.
You mean like vegetable oil? Because I know like big corporations like Burger King, McDonald's, these sort of fast food places, they recycle theirs.
Yeah, or they know someone who actually has a vehicle who
could run on it.
What am I looking for? Converted into a vegetable oil burner. That's the way to do it. Another one is car batteries, and of course back to scrap metal. But things like glass and cardboard, I mean, they're spending more money breaking that down and reusing it than they are in actually just. I mean, I'm sorry.
A car battery, dude. If someone wants to recycle, I have a used car battery sitting in my yard right now. Someone wants to recycle, they are welcome to come and get it. But I am not lugging that 30-pound car battery off to the recycling plant.
Just do what all other New Englanders do and just bury it.
Oh God,
do people really do that?
I've been at my house for 10 years now. I'm still digging up trash out of my yard that was buried like 30 years ago.
I'm not burying a car battery.
Olivia, what else did you want to share tonight?
Oh, just real quick to that, and then I had one other thing to ask. No, don't put your car battery or oil in the recycling bin. Like the car battery would go.
No, you dump the oil out in the backyard directly.
There's a special place. There's a special place at our recycling center where you put car batteries, all in air conditioners and refrigerators and the whole nine. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely. This is. And have you seen those yellow book bins / clothing bins that they had all over town that they removed
during COVID?
You know why they removed them, don't you? According to what they said, it's because people were throwing bull crap in them, trash,
Really?
like actual trash.
I heard it was due to COVID or something that they pulled them out.
No, they were tired of people throwing trash in them.
Well, then why'd they put them back?
They're not back.
They're back, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
The book bins?
No, I looked into it, man. No, not the book bins. The clothing bins.
I don't really care about the book bins. That's where I get my books.
Okay, well, you mentioned the clothing bins, dude. Those were all over town, and I know they got rid of them due to COVID because that's why I looked into it. I was pissed. We had a whole bunch of clothes
Really?
we wanted to donate, and I went down to where I normally would drop it in the bin, and the damn bin was gone. So I looked, and then we looked in another place, and it was gone from there too. That company, they didn't go out of business because obviously they're back now, but for whatever reason, due to COVID, they literally removed all of their bins.
Wow, that's probably a scam program too.
It might be.
Well, it's a way of screwing over the poor, right? The people most likely to not be vaccinated, according to them.
Yeah.
The people most likely to get sick in a way and not have the heat or the wellness and food
I don't think
or the nutrients to take care of themselves. Now they
Now you
also
don't
don't
get
get clothes.
I don't think they're donating to anybody in the States.
It might
I think
be
those
Africa.
are all going overseas.
Olivia, what was your question?
Oh, I wanted to ask you what it's like to be a minister. Like what ministerial.
Now, what God do you pray
services
to,
you
Ian?
offer?
What was the last part of your question? I'm sorry.
Oh, well, like what your ministry is, I guess, outside of Free Talk Live, or like what, I guess, services you offer, or I don't know. Just I was really curious about it. Are you a Unitarian minister? Or?
No. So the Shire Free Church is a interfaith church. And so that means anyone of any faith is welcome as long as you are of peace and an advocate of peace, because Shire Free Church is a peace church. That is what its mission is to foster peace. So everything that the church does is with that in mind. And so we have a lot of different outreach projects that we do. I find it to be very rewarding, and it's nice to be able to help people. One of the outreach projects, as you've identified, is Free Talk Live. It is a program of the Shire Free Church for the purposes of not being overtly religious every single night, but to have the message of peace as our basis and to spread that out there on broadcast radio.
Religious, right? Because Rush Limbaugh or any of these people on Fox News or MSNBC, they wouldn't characterize their shows as religious shows, but we know that what they're doing is they're peddling the state religion. They are priests of the state religion, whether it's readily identifiable as that or not. And we have an alternative religion outside of the state religion, one that is built on peace instead of force and violence.
Correct, and we want to get that out there.
So we are spreading our religion each night. It's just not religion.
We're not singing hymns. We're not doing the more. It's not overtly. This is what you would expect, and I don't think it has to be to be a religious show. And that's what we do here. There's also a lot of other outreach programs we are involved in the local community as well, spreading the ideas of peace and liberty. Thank you.
Isn't there a certain element of the supernatural when it comes to religion? And if that's not a part of if that's not a key component, it's not really religious. It's just an ideology.
The belief in a religion, and I do have a religious belief, but yeah, religion has to do with sort of the nature of the universe, basically, and what you believe about that. And I do have my beliefs about that. I'm a panentheist.
Right. But I mean, if we're talking politics and basically, we are talking a lot about how to treat your fellow man, how to live and communicate with each other, and not be, not kill them, take their things, be mean to them.
I think the greater deity that the average person believes in, whether they realize it or not, is this mythical entity called the state. Whereas the one that we believe in is this, not an entity, but this concept of love and peace. And
to me, God is love. The universe is God. I mean, these are all one and the same. And so to foster peace is a mission from God. in my mind. Now, you're the Satanist in the room, so I mean, we have a lot of, I think, similar beliefs, but I wouldn't describe myself maybe in exactly the same way as you, Arya.
No, but I would certainly qualify as at least a pantheist, if not necessarily a panentheist. I don't remember the distinction between the two at the moment. It's really not important what I believe, the creator of the universe is like or anything like that. The important takeaway from a religion is, what is being done by this religious idea to improve the world or to make the world a better place. Like Christianity, I don't define Christianity by its belief in Jesus or Yahweh or whoever. I think about Christianity and what is it actually doing to make the world better.
Well, a Christian is supposed to be somebody who
is turning the other cheek and who's
who's
loving
acting
their neighbor.
like Christ. Right. And so many of them fail at that.
Right.
And that's the way I view most religious ideas. What they teach about what's going to happen after they die is meaningless to me. I don't care about that. I'll deal with that when I'm dead. What's important to me is what are you doing right now to inspire people to be better, to do better, and to exist better, and to help one another. Yep. And that's where so many of these religions drop the ball. And then you have the state, which goes the complete opposite direction. It teaches people to hate and to be violent and to turn against one another.
There's more coming up.
As I see it, most religions, Arya, they do go that way. They go that route because they're afraid of where they're going to go after they die. And that's the whole point of it.
The number, if you want to join us here at 603-283-6160, whether you want to talk about theology or whatever happens to be on your mind, marrying dolls, it is Free Talk Live. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. The United Nations Secretary General is calling on Moscow and Kiev to work with the UN to create humanitarian corridors that allow safe passage for civilians out of Ukraine. Harvard University has created a $100 million fund to help address its history of slavery and allow it to make reparations. And the US Supreme Court is looking at whether the Biden administration can end a Trump-era immigration policy known as Remain in Mexico. The UN Secretary General has called for Moscow to work with Kiev and the UN to establish humanitarian corridors in Ukraine. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from the UN.
During a meeting at the Kremlin, the UN chief and the Russian president discussed proposals to evacuate civilians from conflict zones in Ukraine, particularly in the city of Mariupol. The UN says the president agreed in principle to the involvement of the UN and the International Committee for the Red Cross in such an evacuation. Earlier in the day, Guterres also had a meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and called for the establishment of a humanitarian contact group, bringing together the Russian Federation, Ukraine and the United Nations to help establish and maintain safe corridors to allow people to escape the fighting. But the Secretary-General said it was clear that there are two different positions on what's happening in Ukraine, with the UN boss maintaining that Russia's so-called special military operation is an invasion that's violated the country's territory and the Charter of the United Nations.
Harvard University has created a $100 million fund to acknowledge its links to slavery. FSN's Nick Harper reports.
A report commissioned by the university found that it had perpetuated the era's racial oppression and exploitation. It also documented how Harvard excluded black students and teachers. Now, the Legacy of Slavery Fund aims to research and memorialise Harvard's history of slavery.
The US Supreme Court is set to examine whether the Biden administration has the power to terminate a Trump-era immigration policy known as Remain in Mexico. FSN's Tony Waterman has more from Texas.
Lawyers for the Biden administration will ask the Supreme Court to allow it to end former President Donald Trump's signature immigration policy. Formerly known as the Migrant Protection Protocols, the program has forced nearly 70,000 migrants to remain in Mexico while their asylum cases are pending, instead of releasing them into the U.S. as under previous administrations. Critics have called the practice inhumane, saying it puts migrants in danger. Biden paused the program on his first day in office, but efforts to terminate it completely have been stymied in the lower courts, which have found that the president lacked the legal basis to end the policy. Texas and Missouri have challenged the administration's move and are urging the Supreme Court to uphold the lower court rulings.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, missed opportunities in Germany. They're under the microscope as the US and its allies pile pressure on Chancellor Olaf Scholz to stop spending $1 billion a day on Russian oil. But Germany's dependence on Moscow for energy is hard to break because the Chancellor's predecessors, Gerhard Schröder and Angela Merkel, failed to take action early enough to secure alternative supplies. Former Chancellor Schröder is all in with the Russians, still heading the sanctioned Nord Stream pipeline project. But what of Angela Merkel? Philippe Piatoff is a columnist and opinion editor at the German tabloid Bild.
She was seen as the leader of the free world, but it was her that didn't see Putin's plan to attack Ukraine, to attack the West, although he was saying it all the time. And I just don't understand. I mean, Germany left nuclear energy after Fukushima. I think we were the only country in the world to leave nuclear energy, to close down our nuclear plants after Fukushima. That happened in Japan. And we turned again to Russian gas, to Russian oil, and now we're sending billions of euros every month to the Kremlin financing this war.
He says a majority of Germans say they would support an embargo on Russian gas, which is also increasing the pressure on Chancellor Scholz and his delicately poised governing coalition. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. The United Nations Secretary-General is calling on Moscow and Kiev to work with the UN to create humanitarian corridors that allow safe passage for civilians out of Ukraine. Harvard University has created a $100 million fund to help address its history of slavery and allow it to make reparations. And the US Supreme Court is looking at whether the Biden administration can end a Trump-era immigration policy known as Remain in Mexico. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Caroline Malone reporting.
An update now on a legal battle emerging around the Onion News Network's own Jode Kressbeckler. After the shocking story yesterday that a group of assailants attacked Congressman William Cummings, tied him to a horse and dragged him through a briar patch, some are now saying these statements from Mr. Kressbeckler last week may have incited the attack.
Bootlegging Congressman Cummings ought to be tied to a horse and dragged through a briar patch.
Mr. Kressbeckler's show is billed as an opinion and entertainment program.
Yes,
and
it
he
is.
even calls himself nothing but a caterwauling old badger, so
Right.
the claim that he would incite people to violence seems pretty far-fetched.
He displayed a map of Congressman Cummings' home in relation to the nearest briar patch, told his viewers where to purchase a, quote, good pulling horse, and used a life-size dummy of Congressman Cummings to demonstrate effective knot tying techniques.
Right. I think most reasonable people would see that as simply a ribald political satire.
Right.
Briar patch is obviously a metaphor for the prickly political atmosphere in Washington, and drag from a horse means something else.
Makes sense to me.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here and you can share your thoughts on whatever happens to be on your mind. The main topic tonight, though, has been the apparent growing popularity of people marrying inanimate objects that are, in some cases, tied to computer programs. We're talking about a man in Japan who has married a... what do they call it? A Vocaloid, I believe was the name of it.
But also inanimate sex dolls.
Well, we don't know if he's having sex with her. We know that there are dolls.
No, I mean, but he has developed a relationship with dolls and a Vocaloid.
Correct. But
who is this basically a star who, like I mentioned in the movie Her, probably many other Japanese men have also developed a similar type relationship with the same person.
Hatsune Miku is her name. What was that, Arya?
I don't recall.
Okay. So he had a marriage to a doll, and she's also a what they call a Vocaloid, which is a programmable singer, some sort of technology that has been around since 2004.
I do remember what it was. It's really not that unusual when you consider nuns, Christian nuns who consider themselves to be brides of Christ. You know, they've chosen celibacy. Ooh. They consider themselves to be the future brides of Christ. Our previous caller asked us about religion, and that immediately made me, start connecting the two topics that we've been on tonight, the downfall of humanity, so to speak. But it's not really a downfall because you've always had monks dedicating their lives to this inanimate object, this intangible object that isn't real in any physical sense, that isn't going to reward them in this life for them to live in poverty and wear rags or whatever, and nuns marrying Christ and
but
living
there is
in
a
celibacy.
psychic reward for them because they feel good about it.
Can you still be...
Well, this person feels good about it as well.
That's right.
Can you still be classified as an incel if you have a relationship with Christ? Is it... And are nuns incels, women incels? Because we were talking earlier, do they even exist? They do exist, by the way.
No, a nun is not an incel because the definition of incel is someone who is involuntarily celibate. That's what the word incel comes from.
But if it's your nature,
a nun is choosing to be celibate.
All right, you're correct. Yeah. But it's almost by their nature to be celibate. Not just they're not only choosing it, but it's like a lifestyle. So it's you choose to be involuntary.
No, that's not how you would use the term involuntary,
though. I mean, that's voluntary celibacy.
Yes. The nun is choosing celibacy. An incel is not. An incel would like to have sex with somebody. They just don't believe that it's possible, or they hate themselves too much, or they hate other people too much, or whatever their reasons are, or
they're socially inept.
Yeah, they feel like they cannot have that relationship that could even lead to any kind of voluntary sexual interaction, so they are involuntary.
Okay, here's another way to look at it. All right, another question. Do some nuns, and priests too, by the way, do they go into their profession because they were originally incels and they're just using it as an excuse, a scapegoat?
Could be.
I can't get a man, I'll just go be a nun.
I think that's probably true for some of them, but I can't imagine it's very many of them. I think most of them are, just genuinely dedicated to...
How many of them are banging the priest, too?
Very few of them. The priests
who aren't banging the boys.
Right. Let's go to your calls and thoughts here. Bad Slave in New Hampshire, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Howdy.
Hey, Bad Slave.
It occurs to me that this whole business of dolls and other inanimate objects and, people's devotion to their smartphones and what have you is the offshoot of governments deciding that the power of individual nuclear families and communities and religions, that kind of backfilled the needs of people, getting through life and advice and what have you, that they're trying to destroy.
So is this a move by the Marxists to destroy the nuclear family by introducing we Americans to lots and lots of porn, and the Japanese, they're being introduced to these? They'd be very interested to see who's behind some of these sex doll companies. And if it is some type of global move to actually destroy the family unit by creating basically more controllable drones.
No, I think that's just a lot of, I don't want to use the word conservative, but it is a social conservative fear. I don't think there's anything unhealthy about, a 50-person coven of witches raising 6 kids or whatever. Those 6 kids are going to they're going to grow up just fine as long as the situation in which they're being raised
as long as they're not being beat or...
as long as the situation in which they're being raised is stable. That's the important thing.
That's the problem. That is the problem. I don't think that those types of communities are by their very nature stable.
They're easily stable.
Have you?
They're way more stable than the 50% divorce rate we have in the United States. You want to talk about unstable?
And let's not use coven. Let's not just use a coven of witches. Let's say some of the communes that the hippie communes. There's documentaries where they just. No one who knew who the parents were. You just had naked kids running around, and a lot of those are some of the boomers that we're dealing with today who are just. Where are they at? When they went boomer, then cancel culture, not cancel culture, but 60s culture, and then they all went yuppies, and we're dealing with
hippies.
The hippies, yeah. So, anyways, you have very clear examples of communes that I don't think were very stable at all. They only lasted a couple of years because everyone hated each other at the end of it.
That every commune or anything like that was stable. I pointed out specifically that a stable family environment, regardless of how you define that family, is the important thing. If it's unstable, the kid's going to be screwed up, whether it's a mom and dad who beat each other half to death every other week, or whether it's a hippie commune or whatever.
So, Bad Slave, are you saying that these dolls are a communist plot? I'm not real clear.
That's my thing. It's a Marxist plot.
No, I think it's a government plot, and I'm not trying to define nuclear family. I did mention that, but I think a nuclear family is any family that lives together and loves together and takes care of each other. So I think that governments don't want regular people to, be capable of normal life, and so there are all kinds of things that are being introduced in these past decades to interfere and
Interesting theory, Bad Slave. Thank you for the call tonight. The number here is 603-283-6160. We do know the government schools are designed to crank out mindless drones who are never going to question their existence, never question their place in life, never question the system, never question quote-unquote authority or any of those things.
And now they've evolved to the next level. Now they are grooming your kids. They are grooming your kids to not know that talking or having or discussing and having sexual activities at their age is not necessarily probably the right thing to be doing.
Yeah, but that aside, let's get back to what Bad Slave was talking about here, because being from Mississippi, I've heard this BS my entire life from Christians who were convinced the nuclear family is being destroyed. We need prayer back in schools. We need the Bible back in schools.
And more Pledge of Allegiance too.
We need husband and wife and straight people and non-trans people.
Yeah, but are they still saying that?
They have never presented one example of anything that's been introduced in the last 50 years that made society worse. It's just all these vague concepts like, oh, well, it's bad because children aren't reading the Bible in their English class now.
They are still like that, Conan.
Yeah, but Arya, look where we're at.
They were never reading the Bible in English class.
Yeah, but look where we're at. They've been complaining forever, and now
Nothing has changed.
The country is about to fall apart.
It's no more about to fall apart than it was 30 years ago.
This is the end of a civilization.
Can it happen before
250
November?
years. 250 years. How long did Rome last?
There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can also bring up whatever is on your mind. Although the discussion has revolved around, and it's branched off from, it's been very interesting tonight, just one story, one little bit of show prep that I didn't realize would spark so much conversation.
It's the future, Ian.
It's here now. Thousands of people in Japan are marrying.
Having seen the South Park specials that we were just talking about, every time someone says it's the future now, that's immediately what I can think of, because they say that phrase like 30 or 40 times within the first episode.
All right, would you rather I said it's the new normal? Stay safe.
Don't they say that?
Stay safe, Arya.
It's not there yet. It's not normal yet, but it is becoming more popular. That is to say, people having a relationship, quote unquote, or a marriage with a doll of some sort of inanimate object. And it started out about a man in Japan who's come out publicly about this. He wants to try to normalize it. His name is Akihiko Kondo. There's footage on RT. Actually, I'll post all of this on our social media platform at social.freetalklive.com later if you want to take a closer look at this, because we're not going to be able to get through all these, the interesting parts of this story. But I was just watching some of the clips from the wedding, and he says that they have like vows. And during the vows, you hear her voice because she's what they call a Vocaloid.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this, for listeners just tuning in, a Vocaloid is a computer program that allows you, if you're a music creator, to add a singer to the music that you've created.
So he used that to make her say "I do" or whatever.
The what do they call it? The vows. So whenever you do the having to hold and the whatever, you can write your own vows, right? So you can say I'll love you forever or whatever. So they said the same vows together. So he spoke at the same time that he played, or whoever it was on the soundboard played her little sound file for the vows. So. And then he kissed.
How hammered was the audience to like sit there through this, not snickering?
Was there an audience?
There was a large audience there. I mean, the whole church was full. And now it's not a huge church. It was probably like 10 rows or
probably all journalists.
No, I think they were his friends. I think they were his
really, because that's what we're talking about. Why would someone even go down this route if they don't have friends? It makes perfect sense. But we don't really understand what the culture is like and how accepted this is over there.
He does say in the little RT documentary that he didn't do well with women when he was younger.
Shocking.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed that this person who married a sex doll voiced by an inanimate object that people pay to have singing in their songs is bad with women.
Let's go to the phones here. We got Steven in Georgia. You're on Free Talk Live, Steven.
Hey, while we're doing this, whole marrying object thing, can we just get rid of polygamy so I can marry my gun collection so the government can never take my guns?
Ooh, that's a good one. You think the judge is going to protect that? You're probably going to throw that out.
I mean, if you can marry a sex doll, can I not marry a sex machine?
Well, I don't believe you can marry another thing. Yeah, I'm against that. Personally.
Yeah, we talked about this in the very beginning. What is the actual definition of marriage? And I don't think that whatever this guy is doing over in Japan is actually can be legal.
It's not. It's an unofficial ceremony. So it's just it's plaything.
Doesn't have any legal. There's no legal binding here?
No, of course not. How could you marry something that's inanimate? How could you marry something that has no ability to consent?
That hasn't consented, yeah.
Well, let's back up for a second and talk about why marriage certificates are a thing in the United States. Let's just be clear, it's a racism thing.
That's
right?
true, yeah. It goes back to the Civil War, right?
Yeah, well, no, it goes back to 1954.
I heard it went back to the 1800s. Maybe it wasn't exactly the Civil War times, but the idea was to keep the blacks from marrying the whites.
Yep. But now it's a tax break, and it's a way to get some of that earned income credit or all the whole nine. So now it's for tax reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And insurance reasons, and for the legal, especially when it comes to your will.
I mean, if you go even further back, legal marriage only existed for the ruling classes and the elites and stuff like that. The average peasants just declared themselves to be married, and
which is the way it should be.
Most people accepted that to be true because they didn't have the money to go into the cathedral and have their local parishioner actually perform the ceremony.
And as far as legal precedent is concerned, in my book, it should be. The judge asks your neighbors, "Hey, are those two married?" And the neighbors are like, "Yeah, they live together, they have kids, and they're married. They said that they're married. We believe them." None of all this legal bull crap. Yeah,
I tend to agree with that.
I despise it.
Are these individuals? Are these consenting individuals of sound mind and body? Are they married?
Yep. Yes or no?
There's no specification there of gender, of number of people involved. It's just, are they consenting adults, and are they? That's it. That's it. Right. And you need nothing else beyond that, except for the other people in society to go, "Oh, okay, you're consenting adults.
And yet
cool. Have a good time."
And yet it's been turned into this bastardization of what marriage should be.
Well, now it's a three-party agreement.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a third party involved, a very powerful with guns.
They hold all the cards.
And imagine being so screwed up in your head that you're like, hey, baby, our relationship is great. Let's involve the government.
What was this, the act of the landlord getting to sleep with the peasant's wife if he so chose to? It might actually not have ever happened.
I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, you have a third party involved in your marriage who gets to sleep with your wife before you get to. I mean, that's exactly what marriage in this country is. That's exactly what legal marriage is.
Stephen, anything else? Go ahead.
I will 100% allow you to shoot my guns if I get to marry them.
I can't have a gun right now. I'm on bail conditions. But thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. Let's go to Sarah. She's in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh, yes.
Sarah, when are you going to let Richard make an honest woman out of you?
Yeah, I try to be that. We better be. But I just wanted to
Was that
bring
an
up
answer?
Well, you know, I better be an honest person. I'm going to have to answer to God, like all of us do.
You didn't
Yes,
understand
sir.
the question, right? You don't know what that means to be an honest, make an honest woman out of you. It's colloquial. It means to get married.
Yeah. It was a joke, Sarah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't understand.
Okay.
But I just wanted to bring up that I think we made national news with that bus getting hit, the school bus getting flipped over. I think I heard it on the national news. So
Well, at least New Mexico is famous for something.
I didn't hear any part about a school bus getting flipped over, so why don't you tell me what happened? By the way, the word, that term I was looking for was night, or right of the first night, is where the landlord gets to sleep with the peasant's wife on the marriage night. So when did this bus flip over, and how many people died, and was there any? Is any of this on camera? So you're newly.
That was the fun part of it. The most fun part about it.
Whoa, this is fun. This is fun to you. I thought you didn't want this stuff to happen.
You see these little kids, school kids, all dumped to the one side of the bus, screaming
doesn't
and
sound like fun.
flying all around the bus. I mean, it's ridiculous. And they had audio and video of this. And
From like the bus camera. All the buses. I mean, even when I was in high school, they were starting to install cameras.
Yeah, this is where you get to see the bus drivers beating on kids.
Yeah, I think that's what she's referring to. Is there might be footage from inside the bus of the thing flipping, and the kids like. I don't know if that sounds like fun for the kids, though, Sarah. Thanks for the call tonight.
This is not Sarah's thing. You're supposed to not want any of this.
Yeah, she's being a little inhumane tonight. That's
She loves
unusual.
it when vehicles crash, though, as long as they don't hit pedestrians.
There's more coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. In a major policy reversal, Germany has announced it is sending heavy weaponry to Ukraine. It comes as Washington and its allies are set to meet on a monthly basis to discuss Ukraine's defense needs as Russian attacks continue. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin made the announcement at a defense summit he hosted at a U.S. military base in Germany.
Now, I think it's significant that Germany announced that it was going to provide 50 Cheetah systems. I think those systems will provide real capability for Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Russian energy giant Gazprom has told Poland and Bulgaria it will stop sending natural gas to the two countries beginning Wednesday because they refuse to pay in rubles, which Russia says all so-called unfriendly countries must now do. And after a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow, The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for Russia to work with Kiev and the UN to establish humanitarian corridors in Ukraine. The Dow fell more than 800 points Tuesday amid fears of an economic slowdown in the U.S. There were mixed fortunes for tech companies as a number of big firms released first quarter earnings results. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
A sell-off on Tuesday saw the Dow end the day down 2.4%. The S&P closed down 2.8%, while the Nasdaq lost 4% as tech stocks performed poorly. Both Microsoft and Apple closed the day down nearly 4%. After markets closed, Microsoft released financial results that beat expectations for the first quarter, while Alphabet's first quarter earnings results came in below predictions. Meanwhile, Netflix hit its lowest share price for years, losing 4% of its value in a single day after revealing a drop in subscriber numbers last week. Meanwhile, the US Senate confirmed the former Treasury Undersecretary Lael Brainard will become Vice Chair of the Federal Reserve. Analysts say her appointment is unlikely to alter the central bank's plan to increase interest rates to address rising inflation. Sarah Walton, New York.
In other news, the new White House COVID response coordinator says the U.S. is at an inflection point with the pandemic.
BA2, the subvariant of Omicron, has become dominant. Cases are rising across the country. But hospitalizations are at the lowest level of the pandemic, and deaths are continuing to fall.
Dr. Ashish Jha attributed the better outcomes to more tools that are available to protect Americans from worst-case scenarios. He also called on the U.S. Congress to approve billions of dollars for more tests, vaccines, and treatments. Meanwhile, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has tested positive for COVID-19. The White House says she has not been in close contact with either President Biden or the First Lady. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And interestingly, this article about the Japanese guy who married a fictional creation, a doll, and also a Vocaloid software,
has a happy ending.
It actually gets into who did attend his wedding.
I don't think we can talk about that, Conan. This has to be FCC friendly.
Not yet. Give it another 10 years and it'll have a robot that'll do that for you.
That's probably true. But it gets into actually who attended his wedding, because you were curious about that, I think, earlier, Ari.
I said journalists.
Yeah.
I think it was a bunch of hammered people, because they've got to be trashed. Right?
No, it's part of his. It's actually part of his movement. So half of the attendees were actually human beings, and the other half were them with their dates.
There was at least
dolls.
one doll in attendance, according to the footage at RT. But we'll tell you more about it coming up here. First to your calls and thoughts. Jack is calling from Washington State. You're on Free Talk Live, Jack.
Oh, just hearing all these stories, there's something going on in those folks' head that's different, because I could never imagine falling in love with anything. And have you ever heard of NPCs?
Non-player character.
Yeah, they're all the ones that are still wearing masks.
Yeah, I think you guys, and I believe I am, were awake. And I think there's a possibility that we're kind of like doing something like that.
See, I kind of see where these people are coming from, because, I mean, when I grew up, I had all of these. I wasn't in love with my stuffed animals or anything like that, but I felt like they were real. They were my best friends, right? Like my most trusted people. But I was dealing with like severe abandonment issues and abuse issues and crap like that.
And how old were you at that time? A child, right?
Yeah,
a small
I was a child. So, but I could totally understand, if I hadn't done shrooms and taken the arc that I did.
Ooh, you see, you red pilled. So maybe you were an NPC back in the day when you were a kid.
Well, who wasn't an NPC when they were 9 years old, right? But I could easily see myself taking a different path and then becoming one of these 28-year-old people or whatever with all of these abandonment issues. And they're like, okay, well, what's really different from having, this stuffed rabbit that I sleep with every night to having a pillow-sized sex doll that I sleep next to every night? So I sort of get where they're coming from.
It's
but
still
that
weird.
doesn't make it any better, and it's still a mental health issue
weird.
that they need to deal with.
It's something they should have dealt with when they were a kid and not
do
be a
some shrooms now.
38-year-old man. I don't know if doing shrooms is going to make him better able to interact with people, though. Like, one dose of shrooms isn't going to solve all your problems. Jack, what else did you want to say? Go ahead.
Well, I think doing a little shrooms probably will help you interact with people.
Not necessarily.
Unless you have a bad trip.
A good dose of shrooms, I want to go curl up in a ball and not talk to anybody.
Oh, really? I always ran out in the forest and
I always
thought my
I tend to believe that shrooms cause a person to incline toward the things that they need to do for their own spiritual wellness. So, I mean, if shrooms make you want to go out into the woods, then go with that.
It depends on the dose, and it depends on where. And
I mean, if you just ate 6 pounds of shrooms and you're like tripping to the extent that you think you can fly, don't wander out into the woods, right?
My little Datsun, we used to put them in lemonade, the Kool-Aid lemonade. We put the shrooms in there and boil them up.
Huh.
My dog got into it once years ago, 20 years ago. Oh, no. Keep in mind, it's a 15, 18-pound dog.
Uh-huh.
And it had the best time of its life.
Oh, wow.
It was jumping around, running around. You know what it didn't do? It didn't die. It didn't get sick.
I don't know how many people have ever died from shrooms.
Yeah, it's one of the safest drugs known to man.
I think throwing up is about the extent.
Yeah, and then you're going to start to trip as soon as you finish throwing up.
Always when it's the minute of.
That's because your body's reacting to what it identifies as a poison, and it's trying to get it out of your system.
Well, yeah, I know that, but why does it always seem your trip starts right when you throw up?
Because
I've noticed that every single time.
Because that's your body detecting that it's entering your system. It's like, we got to get this out.
Or is it your body convulsing so hard that it's like a blood spike that goes through your body?
I don't know. It's a good question. Jack, anything else?
Last thing is one of the callers, David from New Mexico. If he marries anything, it should be a ball gag.
Thanks for the call tonight. 603-283-6160.
Is that because he wants him to shut up?
I'm assuming so.
They've got a little spat.
Or is that what was Pulp? Is that a Pulp Fiction reference?
Could be.
I've never seen Pulp Fiction.
Oh my! That's like Tarantino's best.
It's a golden oldie at this point.
Huh?
I don't know that I've ever seen anything by Quentin Tarantino except maybe didn't he direct The Shining? Wasn't that him?
No.
No, that was Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick.
Okay, yeah.
The same guy who filmed the space landing, the first one.
Right, obviously.
Who created
the
Pulp Fiction is very good. It's a classic.
I don't know that it's good.
All right, well, you're hurting me over here.
One of our chatters in the YouTube chat, Bleda Rasmar, says, but I thought Free Talk Live didn't care what people did as long as it was peaceful and victimless, but now they have a problem with peaceful doll marrying men.
Whoa.
I don't have a problem
I've been defending the guy all night.
He can do whatever he wants. It's his life. Now,
I think it's weird, but I don't think he's not hurting anybody, right?
So, I came at this from a point of view of I understand where they're coming from, but I think there are healthier ways for them to deal with this.
Including shrooms.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily...
Shrooms is a step in the process, right? It's not. Ian's right. It's not going to fix all their issues.
No, it's not. But I mean, a lot of people would say, no, don't do that because that's bad. Drugs are bad.
I don't see.
Well, they should talk to my doctor.
Actually, this is our culture which is evolving. With more and more people are coming to the conclusion that psychedelics might be the way to go to relieve depression. And other mental problems.
There's a reason I don't have a waifu.
It's mind opening and mind altering.
This is not a comment on this man. It is a comment about culture. It is a comment about where things appear to be going. And we can have opinions about that. And I think that generally the three of us have the opinion that this is not a healthy direction for people to be going in.
No.
If it feels good for them, I'm not going to take it away from them. I don't think that there should be anything, there should be any kind of punishment for that or anything like that. It's like, hey, if that's what makes you happy is sitting down and making a bowl of cereal for this inanimate doll, which is some of the footage they have at RT. The man let the camera crew into his apartment. They film him getting up in the morning. He's got the dolls next to him in the bed. He takes the full-size one out, puts shoes on her, and then makes her a bowl of cereal and sits down and has breakfast.
See, if my friend was doing that, though,
you want to intervene?
And I realize saying this as the trans person, is going to get me all sorts of criticism from,
You love it. You're contrarian. You
No, but I realize that people are like, well, you expect people to enable your little mental delusion or whatever, but sure, whatever. If that's the approach people want to take, that's fine. But if I had a friend who was like, hey, look, I'm in love with this doll and I want to spend the rest of my life with her, I'm like, okay, look, I hear where you're coming from and I'm not going to judge you. But I think you should see a therapist before you commit to this course of action.
All right, let me ask you. All right, we're talking about this seems to be a Japanese culture thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
we
far.
and we have our issues, and I'm going straight to the bronies and the furries. So if your roommate was a furry walking around the house in full getup, and maybe even neighing like a pony or something. I mean, just
dude,
would you have the same conversation, or would it be like, just do your thing, man?
No, I would put an end to that long before it became normal for them to walk around in a fur costume.
Because I think we know do we know a furry? Or
I know at least one brony.
I know a brony, and I know a number. Well, actually, the furry that I know is also a brony. So I know at least 2 furries who are different. One of them is a brony, one of them isn't, and I know 2 bronies. One of them is a furry, and one isn't.
For listeners that don't know, a brony is
someone who likes My Little Pony.
A humongous fanatic.
Especially
it's a grown man who watches My Little Pony.
Which is a kind of a cutesy...
It's a girl show.
It's a little girl show.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so weird.
I don't think the new rendition, which I've never watched, I don't think the new one is, in fact, a girl show.
Well, that's what they would argue.
The old one, yeah.
That's what the brony would argue.
The one in the 80s, yeah. But the new one is the same art team who did the Imaginary People that my daughter used to watch.
I don't know what that is.
I adore the art style.
How much of them are brony? What percentage of the art crew are actual bronies?
Good point.
Yeah. Bronies making art for bronies. Which, again, it's fine, man. Whatever you're into.
Johnny Vasquez, or whatever his name is, did Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, but that didn't make Invader Zim an adult cartoon.
Foster's Home for Imaginary People. I used to love that cartoon. I
don't know it.
I've never heard of it.
It's good.
More on the way. If you want to weigh in, now's the time to get on. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here at 603-283-6160. We're talking about this group of people that appears to be growing in popularity, at least in Japan. And, of course, as Conan, I think, as you pointed out, the fursuit phenomenon, the furries in the United States, and I imagine furries are an international thing at this point.
Yeah, how is that any different?
Yeah.
How is that any different than what this guy's doing?
Well, the furries, at the very least, are meeting one another. This guy is living with a doll, so there is a difference there.
Are they, though? How many of these would feel comfortable actually interacting with another human being without the dog head on or whatever?
I think that's part of the reason why they do the furry thing, is they are not wanting to interact with another person without having this thing in between them.
So their interaction with one another is about as real as like the digital dance party that the Colonial Theater had.
That's a good point. It is a fantasy interaction, but involving another party.
But isn't that part of the program, though? Part of the mode is to actually become that. You are that character. You not become. You are that
an animal.
You're that animal.
Well, it's definitely.
Well, that's like when you eat the cracker at church or whatever. You're eating the flesh of Christ or whatever. But it's surely no one really believes that.
Yeah, it's all just very interesting stuff here. I want to share a little bit more from DNYUZ.com.
Yeah, who attended this event?
Wedding?
Yeah.
So we're talking about a man, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about a man in Japan who married a, not an anime character, but she looks like one. It's what they call a Vocaloid, essentially a computer programmable singer that has an anime-looking character associated with it. He found comfort in
a blue-haired 16-year-old girl, by the way.
So he found comfort in her, Miku, in 2008 after bullying at his job sent him into a spiral of depression. He had decided long ago he would never love a real person, partly because, like many young people, he had been rejected by a series of crushes, and partly because he didn't want the life that Japanese society demanded of him. Soon, he began making songs with Miku, because again, you can just buy the software and make music, and purchased a stuffed doll of the character online. A major breakthrough in the relationship came nearly a decade later with the introduction in 2017 of a $1,300 machine called Gatebox. One word, Gatebox. The size of a table lamp, this device allows its owners to interact with one of a variety of fictional characters represented by a small hologram. Gatebox was marketed to lonely young men. In one advertisement, a shy office worker sends a note to his virtual wife, letting her know he'll be late. Upon his arrival, she reminds him that it's their 3-month anniversary, and they share a champagne toast. As part of its promotional campaign, Gatebox's maker set up an office where users could apply for unofficial marriage certificates, and thousands of people registered. Mr. Kondo, the man in this article, was delighted that Miku was among the Gatebox characters and excited to at last hear her thoughts on their relationship. So remember, he's had a quote-unquote relationship with this doll for a decade.
It's like a combination of Alexa and a hologram and this AI personality all merged into one weird.
Who programs these thoughts? What if it doesn't align with
some weird nerd? Clearly,
yeah, I know. So some weird nerd pre-programs these thoughts that are coming from this hologram.
Yeah, it's an AI.
But it's not the insight that this guy created over a decade. He's like, who are you? You don't sound anything like my girl.
Well, it turns out she did. In 2018, he proposed to Miku's flickering avatar, and she replied, quote, "Please treat me well," unquote. He invited his coworkers and his family to the wedding. They all refused to come. In the end,
shouldn't laugh.
In the end, though, 39 people attended. Largely strangers and online friends.
Yeah.
His local member of parliament was there, and a woman he had never met before helped him with the arrangements. Some Japanese commentators denounced him as weird. Others pleaded for sympathy. One man contended the union was a violation of Japan's constitution, which states that marriage shall only be allowed with the consent of both sexes. In response, Mr. Kondo posted a video of his proposal.
Well, I mean, she consented in so much as any AI can consent.
By the way,
that's when it's going to get weird.
That's where
when
this
we
is
do
going.
actually have AI, because we don't have AI right now. We have we have pre-programmed response or whatever. Once we do have an actual AI that you slap into a robot
that can pass the Turing test.
Yes.
You cannot tell whether it is an AI or not.
That's when it's going to get tricky. Can that AI consent to marriage?
That is the ultimate question.
Ooh. Well, if they can pass the Turing test, then there you go. By the way, Joe in chat brings up a very good point. This was one of the main components in Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I've heard it's really good.
Well, then I won't say any more because
Okay.
it needs to be watched. It's good.
Really?
It's especially if you like the. Did you ever watch Drive with Ryan Gosling?
No.
It's also a good program to watch. It's slow, but it's Blade Runner 2049. It is beautiful. It's just gorgeous. But yes, there is an AI girlfriend. I'll just leave it there.
So in the years since the story went viral, hundreds of people have turned to Mr. Kondo for advice, support, and reassurance. Remember, he's basically the international spokesman for fictosexuals. Among them was Yakusaki Watanabe, who opened a small business registering fictional marriages after seeing the popularity of the Gatebox short-lived certificate service. Over the last year, he has counseled hundreds of fictosexuals and issued around 100 marriage certificates, including one for himself and Hibiki Tachibana, a character from an anime series called Symphogear. Mr. Watanabe, who likes to travel and has an active social life, began watching the show only at a friend's insistence. But when he saw Hibiki, it was true love, he said. It was not his first marriage. Is this the guy from the other article you were talking about?
Let me see.
Oh, no, this is over the last year it's talking about. He had divorced a woman several years earlier. His new relationship
This might be the guy.
Easier, he said, with no demands.
Shocking. Marrying an inanimate object is easier than marrying a real woman.
Yes, yes. Senji Nakajima.
No, different guy. This is Yasuaki Watanabe. He had divorced a woman previously. He now has no demands on his time and no need to cater to someone else's desires. The love was pure, he said, given
yes,
freely.
Purely selfish.
And with no expectation of anything in return. It made him realize how self-centered he had been in his earlier marriage.
But hold on.
Okay.
No, that's the very definition of self-centered.
Yes.
If you have to marry an inanimate object because you can't handle someone else's opinions.
But now he realizes at least that he was the problem in his previous relationship. He needs to take that and apply it. Stop taking this easy way out. Say, okay, I was the problem. I was selfish. Now I need to become less selfish. I need to become have a healthy relationship with someone else who deserves the same equal treatment that I feel that I deserve. That would be the healthy way of taking this epiphany that this guy had and applying it instead of going, well, I guess I'm just a self-centered jerk. I'm going to make out with my pillow now.
If you ask me if I'm happy, he said. Of course, there are tough parts, he added. He misses being touched. And then there is the problem of copyright, which has prevented him from making a life-size doll of the character.
Oh, that sucks.
He says, but the love is real.
You're going to have to go to Pirate Bay, boy. You have to download yourself a pirated version.
And this isn't just for men. Here's an example of a female. Kina Horikawa, a 23-year-old woman with a chirpy, outgoing personality and a goth punk aesthetic, moved in with her parents during the pandemic, freeing up cash from her job at a call center to spend on Kunihiro Horikawa, a character from the mobile game Touken Ranbu. She had a real boyfriend, but broke up with him because he became jealous. You're spending too much time with your anime character.
With your doll.
Her fictional husband is the teenage personification of a 400-year-old wakizashi, or Japanese short sword, and he joins the family for dinner most nights in the form of a tiny acrylic portrait.
So her parents are enablers.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
Yeah.
Hold on, she's married to a 400-year-old sword?
The teenage personification of it.
Is that part of the
whatever, man?
Is that part of the mythology?
I guess whatever anime or game she played. The couple double dates. So the character is represented by an acrylic portrait perched next to her rice bowl. The couple double dates with friends who have their own fictional beaux, going out to high teas and posting photos on Instagram.
I got to imagine, though, that the ratio of men to women here is really one-sided. Like maybe one woman for every 100 men.
Yes,
that's an interesting question.
I would say so.
But you have to understand, in the Japanese culture of the younger Japanese, there's a lot of loneliness. There's a lot of people who have gone away from the tradition of meeting people, have turned within. And so it would be interesting to find that out, like what percentage of these marriage certificates that have been issued, these fictional marriage certificates, what percentage of them were requested by men and what percentage were requested by females.
What you're outlining the dinner. They're sitting having double dates.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like tabletop role playing to me.
Sounds like a single date with paperwork to me.
That's what I mean. I think they're.
It's just two people going on a date, and they're too dense to realize that they're dating each other.
This is like Americans do this. It's called role playing. It's called tabletop role playing, Dungeons and Dragons, or whatever game floats your boat.
I think
they're doing the same thing.
I never tried to marry one of my friends' D&D characters, so.
I'll put the full story because we haven't gotten through the whole thing. It's interesting.
I cannot believe we have not.
I've skipped a lot of it. I've skipped some
3 hours.
Chunks. That'll be on our social media, social.freetalklive.com. Got some good conversation out of it, though. That's
fun.
For sure.
We'll
see you tomorrow night. freetalklive.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a forward